Welcome to tonight's. Whoops, 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 whoops. Welcome to tonight's show as Antified presents Talking IT with Tony and Glenn. And we have some special guests tonight with us as well. We have Jake Zeke and Kevin Clark. Here we go with Talking IT.
Staring at the fallen tree you used to love back then. Dreaming at night of all we could have been. But all those precious moments fall between us. All these secrets buried in the grass. It's an endless circle, baby. We're falling under. It's a vicious cycle that you can't stop. We'll keep on falling, baby, over and over. You won't stop the chase when I'm gone again. Tell me if you think of me in your adventures. Maybe about all the times you made me laugh. I just can't remember when it all fell apart. All these secrets buried in the past. It's an endless circle, baby. We're falling under. It's a vicious cycle that you can't stop. We'll keep on falling, baby, over and over. You won't stop the chase when I'm gone again. No matter what we try, we always come back to the best we made. You wanna go back to the route you love. I wanna go back where I belong. Was the chase really worth it after all? It's an endless circle, baby. We're falling under. It's a vicious cycle that you can't stop. We'll keep on falling, baby, over and over. You won't stop the chase when I'm gone again.
Now let's begin Talking IT.
You sound so muffled. What's going on, Ange?
I'm sick.
Oh, that's no bueno.
Muffle the Ange. Don't muffle the
It's
Ange.
this
Don't muffle the
season.
Edge.
I'm literally turning into the pumpkin with a stuffy nose.
Well, we're here. I got interrupted in the middle of my rant, though.
Oh well, I would like to continue that at some point because I
Continue
agree
that
with you.
rant.
This is something to talk about. On Band Lab.
My God, it's got to be talked about.
we-
Like it's going to be too much.
But what we're going to talk about here is that song we were just listening to, because I love the song and I love what Kevin did on that mix there, especially at the end, right before that last part the way her vocals went into the outro, beautiful emphasis on how you mix those vocals. You were dealing with a lot of vocal layers there, and you got them to blend like a champ.
It was a bit of a challenge for sure, but you're right. It's about blending. It's about basically riding the levels. So it's kind of trying to find the vibe of the song, the ebb and the flow of the song, and not in a song like this. So much of it relied on kind of subtle dynamics, getting a little bit quieter, building up a little bit, and not like a big dramatic build up like in rock music or metal music where you can just slam. You can have a nice like slammed change, right? This was a lot more subtle. So it was a bit of
Yeah,
a
you had a
learning
lot of
experience.
different flows. The
There's
flow in
some,
this one, like, really bounces around.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
liked about it the most? Is you were one track away from too much.
I think it might have been too
You
much.
were, you were
Yeah,
no,
he found
you're
the
right
sweet
there.
spot.
No, you're right there. That's what I'm saying. Is you were like 1-2 tracks away from too much. Everything came through. Like I literally heard every single track, which is unusual. That's not common, especially in complicated renditions and complicated composers such as that. When you've got so many vocals, you've got so many instruments, you've got all these things going on at once. Nothing really got lost. Everything complemented it. And I have to give you a huge,
Yeah.
huge mad props on that.
Oh, thank you very much. And that was a big concern for sure. And I personally like songs that have a lot less instruments for sure. They're I think it's easier to get to the emotion of the song and the message, and they're a hell of a lot
And to
easier
focus on the
to
mix.
And well,
The more you get, the more likely you get into that situation Jake's talking about, where it's like, oh my God, I mixed it into insanity. Now you either go back to the square one and start over and mix it again, or you try to pull back whatever it is that's too much.
Yeah.
You'd ever want to get there. You want to stop right before there.
Yeah, for sure. The trick one with this one was, yeah, there's quite a bit of instruments, but nothing was doing anything very complicated. They were mostly kind of following a little tiny bit of weaving in and out, but mostly staying with the groove, mostly staying underneath the vocals. The trick was I tried to have it so when the vocals when there's a little opening, I tried to have something simple kind of poke up a little bit, but never too much. So I'm pretty happy with it. But I think Jake, you kind of touched upon the thing that sort of maybe bugs me the most about the song, is that it's definitely on the verge of having too much stuff going on.
It's right there.
But
Yeah,
you have a lot of different tracks that you had to tame. And you did.
I think you did. I think you did a fantastic job. Like
That's cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
That's
like
cool.
like if there was any criticism in what I said, it was taken completely wrong, because it was all admiration, because that's a lot to put into a single song and a single composure and actually have it all come through, because you end up with these muddy situations where you have this track is overtaking this one, and then you try to mix those in, and then you're overtaking the vocals, or your background vocals are just weird. There's not enough distance between them. There's no width to the song. You nailed every single bit of it. And it's not even my type of music.
Those are the scenarios.
Like,
Yeah,
it's not.
me too.
Well, it's funny because Kevin was saying too, he's not a country guy per se.
I
but
would say that's country. That's
considering
more the
how
folk
well
side. It's definitely folk.
Well, I feel
Yeah.
the country in there, but it does have multiple genres. Like I do feel like a Caribbean cruise kind of vibe on those bouncy parts. Da 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 da. During that time, it almost feels like Caribbean, and then it goes back into the country kind of swagger.
Well, the thing is it feels it's folky it's folky in its sound, but it's so classic in it feels like it's from a different era, which is really, really cool, which you don't get a lot of that.
That all comes down to Antonia, and she wrote a really nice progression, and just beautiful.
And she has a
lyrics.
classic sound.
Yeah.
She has
really
that
does.
classic country sound, like those country singers, the females from the 70s and early 80s. Antonia has that tone in spades.
She really does, and her personality comes through as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
In this song it does, and other songs we did as well. She's like a lot of personality comes through, and I try to accentuate that as much as possible because it's awesome. Like you really feel like you kind of know her as a person basically when she's singing. So she's yeah, I love her vocals for sure. If she had a slightly better recording setup, that would be amazing. What I really wanted to do with this
Yeah,
song
equipment.
was like I really wanted to make her vocals like soar, and I would have actually preferred to put her vocals out front a lot more, to be honest.
Well, you did accentuate them like as best as you could with what you had to work with, because like I said, going into that last part, there's that moment where it's her line that kind
Yeah.
of finishes off the song before the outro, and you mixed it perfectly because her voice stands out for a minute, and then it goes into the outro, and that was key.
Well, I think more of what Kevin's talking about is one of the things that gets diminished in a bad recording setup, such as going on a phone or a really cheap USB mic or something like that, is you lose a lot of the depth to her vocals, and you can hear that.
The dynamics.
I can almost guarantee you've got at least two compressors, you've got something for warmth, you've probably got a tube analog on that. I don't know what you have on there. I don't know, but and the plate and verb, or I guess that would be, it was just verb, but a little bit of delay. Those things that you've got on there, you had to put them there. You have to. There's no option for it because you had to bring out that richness in her voice. And unfortunately, when you start doing that, you do start missing what you're talking about because you heard the raw. You know what the raw sounds like, and you know it's like, oh, it's so sweet up there. But how do you pull that out while cleaning it up at the same time? I think that's mostly where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have liked to get a lot more air on her vocals as well, but the air was gone because if anytime I tried to bring air out, it would be bringing out all kinds of other stuff that wasn't so good. There's a lot of editing.
And you had a dual challenge there because you had male and female vocals that you had to kind of bring together in a lot of those parts, and that's always trickier when you've got two vocal tones like that.
That was a bit of a mix. That was a bit of a delicate balance as well. I think Gary in this case was at his summer house and he didn't have his regular recording rig. So I believe, I might be wrong, but I think he might have went through his phone here too, which is totally.
Oh, wow, you were dealing with two phones. What a champ you are, man! You made that shit sound that good.
It was good.
But
two fucking vocalists singing through phones.
It was good.
It's tricky. So there's a lot of artifacts. So I did do a lot of manual editing because, like, I know we talked previously there about different kind of filters and gates and stuff that you can do, and that's a definite for sure. But oftentimes what you have to do is you have to kind of go in. You have to go in kind of word by word, syllable by syllable sometimes, and like there's a lot of breathing. There's basically we're not talking about. Antonia is an amazing vocalist. She's probably not like completely trained on how to sing on a mic, and Gary isn't. I'm not as a guitarist. I'm not trained either. So we're all in the same boat here. But there's a lot of like mic technique, and there's mic noise, and there's lots of breathing, and you can hear people's like spit, like. You can hear them spitting.
We just talked about this. Had a whole thing on this. And a whole thing about this.
And you have to sit, and because you're sitting here and you're listening to like, one of these tracks, and it starts becoming a little bit like, not gross. Gross isn't the right word, but but you have to get rid of that obviously, because what happens is all those little things, they're all natural things. And their sibilance as well is insane.
Yes.
But all these little things, if you don't do anything about it, they just take your attention away. So you have to go in and
now when it comes to post cleanup, whether it's de-essers or the pop plugins or noise reduction, like what we were talking about earlier, are there any of those post production things that you find yourself using on a regular basis with BandLab tracks? Because other than noise reduction, I don't like the pop filters and the other things. They don't tend to help. I'd rather have somebody use a real pop filter before I try to post pop it.
Jake, what's your take on that?
No, absolutely not. There's nothing that I use regularly. It's unfortunate because when I'm mixing other people's tracks, when I'm mixing my own things, and Kevin could probably attest to this too. When you're mixing your own vocals,
Well,
when you're singing your
when
own
you're
thing,
doing yours, you're aware of what to avoid. You're
correct.
trying to avoid those things in your
But there
capture.
is
You're
there
the
is
pro.
no perfect noise reduction plugin or anything that you can use consistently in the same exact way that'll always work. I just don't feel like it's not there.
Yeah.
When you're taking,
Never found one.
unless you can control the environment, unless you're in a studio and they're singing on your mic, there's absolutely nothing that you can do on that end. So if you're taking from a phone, every phone is different, every recording is different, every noise background is different, every mic is, every single thing is different. And so I would go so far as to say absolutely not. There's not a common ground on that. You need to be flexible. I'm sure there's things that you're going to have that are similar. But like using it just like a say, this has a little bit of noise on it, I'm going to go straight to my VST, my V2 noise reduction. No, that's probably not going to work. What Kevin's talking about doing is probably the best.
It depends on the noise you're dealing.
What he's talking about is
like
probably
what
the best method.
you were mentioning earlier. Like you use like an EQ approach to start with noise reduction,
So
which
I use
is the best natural way.
Correct. I use a gate and I use a limiter first, then I take off the top and the bottom, and then I work on the middle. But I do the same thing that Kevin does, is I go in and I literally go by syllable, and I pull those pops out. I literally edit them out. I'll change. I'll volume ride everything.
Yeah.
A manual volume ride, nothing beats it. There's literally nothing that beats it. And so if I were to say you're not using a tool, you're using a technique, which is volume riding. That's the best way to do it. That's the only way to do it consistently. And if you're doing it every single time, that's the one thing that you're probably going to do every single time.
Exactly.
And it does require attention to detail. You have to be willing to play that track over and over and go through each part over and over until you smooth the whole thing.
At least to the point where when it's in the mix, it's not offensive, and you have to draw the line at some point. My experience with processing to get rid of artifacts and noise and all that kind of stuff is if I did that, I've done that with some of her vocals in the past that are sort of recorded a similar way, and I can get rid of all the bad stuff, but it doesn't even sound like a human anymore. Like
exactly.
Right. It's just
you lose a lot of dynamics.
Well, you lose
the more you start to use those post tools, you start to lose a little highs, a little lows. What the hell's going on in the middle? That's why I don't like to use post fixes.
One that seemed to help some was the reefer subtractive EQ. So basically it would build the noise profile. So like if you have an air conditioner in the background, for example, on a track where it's just a very consistent noise that is throughout the whole track that you just want to get rid of, that was good to just build a noise profile, have it subtract that out, and then the rest still sounds quite natural. But then it doesn't take care of intermittent pops and stuff.
That's subtractive. Yeah, that subtractive method works nice with the noisy phones. It's the one noise reduction when it came to noisy phone tracks that kind of solved it without too much compromise. Well, every other one I tried, like Jake, I was like, not using this.
Well, let me ask you this. So Tony and Glenn, you guys have heard many of my tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many. Mm-hmm. Now you kind of know.
I love that country track. That Glenn played me some of your country the other day. Love what you're doing over there.
But you've heard my music. You've heard my vocals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever heard an aircraft going over in mine?
No, and you said don't you live near an airport?
I live
near
like
an airport.
Literally like about 6 blocks away from Hill Air Force Base in Utah. That's where I live. It's extremely noisy. It's constant. It's always there. I'm using 2 condenser mics and I'm recording on these, and there's planes going over. I hear them in my headphones and I just kind of have to sing through them. What Kevin has been doing, what he's talking about, the volume writing that he's talking about, is exactly what I have to do to make my tracks sound as clean as they do. That's what I have to do. There's absolutely no way around it. And oftentimes what you're getting on cell phones is because of the way that a cell phone speaker works, and the way that because it's a very, very small plate on that speaker. It's very, very tiny. It's very metallic. And so anything that's high end, you can have somebody in a rice burner, roll by, and that's a completely different noise. And there's no noise reduction on the planet. And I would say that Atmos probably has the #1 noise reduction plugin in the world, and it still doesn't work. It won't. It can't do it. It can't possibly do the correct things, because you've got to also understand that a computer can't recognize all 3 billion voices that are out there. And so what it recognizes is a voice versus what it's recognizing as a noise or an animal sound or a chirp or anything. It's a digital program just full of binary code that just can't do that. You just can't.
Look at the approach that like mobile devices take at noise reduction for, say,
Yeah.
conferencing, where they utilize mics on the back of the phone that are
Mhm.
capturing the room sound so that they can cancel that against the mic in the front.
Yeah,
And,
you could,
and
if you could
basically
do,
the AI is drawing a signature of what it considers the
Correct.
background noise.
But it's still metallic.
and
It doesn't
filtering
matter. It doesn't matter what you do as far as so when you're talking about noise canceling, that's a totally different frame of reference. There's a reason that you can't go into a big studio and find a noise canceling microphone. There's no such thing. It's because it's a condenser
Yeah.
microphone or a large diaphragm microphone or a cardioid microphone or an Omni or whatever these figure 8, a ribbon microphone. They're all designed to take in every bit of sound going from a direction, period, end of discussion. And a phone is no different. It's taking sound from one direction, then it's a digital processor on the back that's eliminating that other sound. It's all a digital process. And so when you start recording on, say, a USB microphone is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. It's a huge pet peeve for me.
latency.
It's not just latency. It's not just latency. It's the way that most USB microphones to process that signal in a digital way that's very, very archaic. It's very simple. This is how it is. And so you're always going to lose this part of the vocal, or you're going to lose the entire tone. You're going to lose all of that no matter what. And so what Kevin's doing from a phone recording is he's literally taking a very one-dimensional sound from one direction in a very tiny hole, very tiny, small situation, very metallic. He's warming it up. He's getting rid of artifacts, and he's de-essing, and he's adding,
giving it stereo presence.
Yes, he's widening it out. He's doing all these things, and the amount of work that goes into doing that on a phone is incredible. And that's why I give you so much. That's why I was very, very impressed with the vocals on this, especially when you said it's a phone. Because what people don't understand is that's not, like, even the amount of work that I have to do in my own processing isn't nearly that much. We've talked about, a lot of people using their phones. I'm like, yeah, you could do it. Learn how to master through your phone. Learn how to do that. And then when you get a nice condenser mic, you'll really, really appreciate you'll
only sound better.
The lower amount of work that you have to do on it. But the way that you were able to pull that, and I know what you're missing on there, because you can almost tell it from the mix. She's got a huge range.
Yeah.
She's got
what I wanted to do with her is get the appropriate compression on her, and bring her really, really close. But the problem was, when there's so much noise, when you use compression, you're bringing the noise up too, right? So you've lost one of the
any effect.
Or any effect.
When you have a noisy track, every fucking effect starts to go nuts.
but especially compression. Compression, all of a sudden you take something and you make it effectively. You could make your noise as loud as her vocal with a compressor. That's what it's actually almost built to do. Now that would be an extreme case, but you're not looking at that. But you're bringing something that's let's say her noise is here, which is way too loud. It should be here. It's already here. You want to compress her vocals. You want to tame them a little bit, but what you're doing is you're bringing the noise up. So you kind of end up chasing your tail. So you have to chop off the noise when she's not singing, but when she is singing, there's a lot of noise. Most of that noise gets masked.
Then is that where the gate or the limiter, Jake, with your gate and limiter approach, is that you're like, limiter is keeping some of that?
You've got to remember that's my first step. in the process is I use the gate and I use a limiter to remove this high, remove this low, and then I go through and I volume write everything at that point. At that point, once I start volume writing everything, the limiter and the gate is useless at that point. I just use it as a base to get
I was going to
myself where
say
I need
the
to be.
limiter and the gate are kind of doing
Yeah,
what
they're
the
gone.
compressor does.
Well, what a compressor does, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, is a compression is more or less a volume leveling device. A compressor is that's more or less what it is. That's more or less what it is. It's a volume leveling device. Plug-in is a compression. That's all it is it makes the volume more consistent throughout the track. And so if you've ever seen somebody that you've probably heard it a lot, especially on band labs, somebody will throw a compressor on something and you'll go, well, that sounds weird. And that's because you didn't do the volume writing that you needed to do in between there to make that consistency actually work. What a lot of people confuse is the difference between compression and EQ. Compression, like I said, is going to make something very consistent across the board. It's going to take that band that's super spiky. It's going to bring down those highs. It's going to bring up those lows in a certain way. And an EQ is what's going to take away those frequencies. And so you can drop out your low frequencies, you can bring up your high frequencies. And those, I mean, this is the very basic of it. There's compressors that do all sorts of crazy things out there. There's 1975 compressors. There's what is it, monochromatic,
and you see them mix
compressors. There's all sorts
mix things like the multi-band compressing.
No, there's all kinds of compressing out there.
It's a combination of EQ, a combination of compression, and the final product is controlling the frequencies and the levels.
But the most basic form of a compressor, the compressor should be used as a final touch 99% of the time. Should be used as that final touch. Is like, okay, I've got the volume level. And tell me if I'm wrong, Kevin, on your approach, because I'd love to hear your approach on this one. But I go through a process on my vocals. I clean them, I vocal write them, I add my effects, and I compress at the end. That's my compression. My compression is always at the end, and that's just the process that I've developed.
Yeah,
and I
think it's the easiest workflow.
Well, there's a reason for it.
Well, it's the only way. You don't want to. You have to clean things up first, obviously. Yeah. Right. You got to clean you don't
want to confuse your reference. Injecting compression in early gives you a false reference. So everything you start doing afterwards, if you're doing it to the compression, then you're going in reverse. Now you're trying to clean up your track to the effect.
Well, it's just like kind of a left to right. Like you got the person who's actually singing into a mic, right? Mm-hmm. So where you would fix it would be the performance, where the mic is, the mic technique, the level that's going in. Like it's just literally the signal flow we're talking about. And then dynamic effects would be kind of downstream from that somewhat. And then obviously your any time-based things would be probably after that as well. But it's good. It's good that we all have the same challenges for sure. And there's so much, with some basic gear, like if people just kind of invested in a little bit better gear and kind of learned a little bit more about like how that all fits together and how to properly use it, the result in the end could be so much better, and it'd be quicker to come to that result. Yeah. So
that's what I was telling. That's what I was telling Tony.
A singer should invest in a mic. Guitar should invest in a good guitar. Keyboardist should get a nice weighted keyboard if you're me.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
That's your start.
And this has always been my thing. And you guys have seen me say it over and over and over now. I will never stop saying it. I use my two mics that I use in stereo. I use a Scarlett Studio mic that came in with my Scarlett 2i2. And I use a blue Blackout Spark. My total mic investment is less than $400. I argue that I make my tracks sound like a $600 or $700 mic. I argue that I do that, and I think, and
Because
I
you know what you're doing.
because I know what I'm doing.
I would argue with you.
And so
That blue is what you're using right now, right?
So I'm actually using
that blue
for
gives you
this
a great tone.
I actually use my my USB mic. Actually, I have a USB mic that I use for podcasting and things like that. My other mics, I don't have those on. I try to keep them off as much as possible because they're cheap, and I don't want to constantly keep 48 volts running through them, and I don't want to damage anything. Them.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. But what I'm getting at here is there's something that happens when we start talking about gear, when we start talking about music, when we start talking about when we start talking about plugins, when we start talking about adding this and doing this and doing this and doing this and doing all these other things, we start losing people because people are like, oh, I need to go and buy this, or I need to have this. I need no. What you need to do is you need to start with a mic, whatever mic that is. You need to start with a DAW. I would recommend a free DAW. Reaper's out there. I still use it to this day. A free DAW. I would learn to use a DAW. I would learn to sing into my mic, and I would learn how to use the 3 basic tools that are out there, which is reverb, EQ, and compression, or delay. Yeah, I'll add
for vocals
or delay. Delay is fine too, but learn to use those, master those things, and then you'll start going, well, I'd really like to have this because this would make this workflow easier. This would make this simpler. Now I'd rather grab that plugin or that piece of equipment. And like, you know what? I'm missing out on some of my highs here. I know my voice has it. I can hear it, but this mic is just not giving it to me. And then you go out and you start shopping for a mic that gives you that sound, because if you got a really super bassy voice,
and then you can appreciate the dynamics you get. Like having the greatest mic in the world and not knowing what to do with it, I would rather know what to do with a crappy mic than have a great mic and have no clue how to.
I've heard really shitty recordings on Neumann's, man. And Neumann's are the gold standard for vocals, and I've heard really shitty recordings.
And here we're hearing awesome tracks coming off of phones. So it goes to show you that, like, no, the capture itself, they're not created equal. It's about what you can do with that capture.
The performance is 99% of it, but if you're 90% of it, let's just say. But if you want to take that potentially really great performance and just add a little bit more to it, then yeah, you need a couple other things need to fall in line. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, like gear alone is not going to get you there.
No.
Yeah, like she sang really well. She expressed herself really well. She put her personality into it. She hit her notes.
She laid down nice tracks.
Yeah.
Like the tracks that you had to work with, the layers that she did were very like choral orchestrated.
Oh yeah, for sure. And her timing was pretty good too. So those are the important things. So her performance was great. So it's just that last little. It's the sin is that with that last little bit, you could sort of elevate it a little bit more. So it's that's the only reason sort of harping on it. If it was sort of a lesser singer, for instance, then it wouldn't be so much of a concern. Yeah.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I understand that, in her particular case, having a better mic setup would just amplify the performance in such a way that would be wonderful. But what the biggest problem that I see happen.
You want to hear all her dynamics. Kevin wants to hear that beautiful voice in all its glory.
I know it's there. I know it's there because once again, when you mix enough, when you hear enough, when you've gone through enough, you go, man, this is one that's really good. And you really want to capture that, and you reach out, and there's a lot of producers or local recording mixing engineers and things like that that'll hear something, and that it's good just by their reaction, because they'll go, what was that? What was I want that again. And you chase that sound. It's almost like chasing, that first heroin high. You hear that sweet sound.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I want to get that
sonic high.
I need that. I need that sound. And there's moments where you really hear it, but the problem is there's a saturation. It's gonna sound so shitty. And this kind of goes into my rant that we were having before. There's a saturation of people that don't give other people an honest opinion. And if like for instance, if I sang on that track, I could probably sing on that track, but it would never do what was done, ever, not once. I could never match what she has. I don't have that voice. I don't have that styling. And I would expect one of my friends to go, no.
I'd like to hear you try the female parts.
But I would expect,
just
I would
to see what you
expect
can
one of my
do with
friends,
that damn tone.
I would expect one of my friends to go, no. What we've run into, and especially on BandLab and as of late, is we're glorifying mediocrity. And we're not, because the fact that that song only has 138 likes on it blows my mind. It's been out
Should
since September
have
21st.
hundreds of thousands.
It should.
That's a hit in the country world. You put that on country radio, it won't take long for it to saturate and get up to the top 10.
Well, it doesn't matter. Even radio and
country
mainstream
song.
is that. Even radio and mainstream is that way. You get people that are just talentless hacks that are making a lot of money, and it does happen. And there are some amazing producers out there that do some incredible things with performances, and then you hear them live, and you're like,
Well, you got to give those producers credit because they make some of those hacks actually millions of dollars. And a lot of times it is the production work that makes them the $1 million, not the creative talent.
But what I'm saying is, in this particular case, there is a dose of creative talent that you will never get anywhere else, and that's in Kevin's mixing. There's absolutely, the performances are fantastic, but the way that you mix that, the way that you produce that, you should have a show to where you go through and teach people how to do that, because that's what this site needs.
You got to see, Glenn, do you have that color chart that you were showing me before? You got to see what he did to actually break up these parts.
It was even in the
this
track,
is what
actually.
got my attention.
When he had the track up before, and you could actually see it along one of the top tracks there. You'll see the red.
You can see it in the waveform.
Yep.
Yeah. I could bring that up at some point.
Yeah, you had a big challenge there as far as like everybody adding their tracks afterwards. This song has a lot of different parts going, constantly changing. For somebody who's about to add their bass like Glenn, being able to see the breakdown of the song construction, this is the part that got my attention. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
it was
think
hugely
enough
helpful.
bandlabbers are focused on composing and how you arrange your song in its parts. It's in the sub parts. 8 measures of this, 4 measures of that, or
Right,
2.5
right.
measures.
Right.
Some of this broke up into non-standard parts.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And there's some things out there that can be like a blues progression or like a standard sort of country structure. And a lot of musicians they're gonna be able to listen to that once, and they're gonna get a clear picture of exactly, the whole construction of the song. And then they'll be able to go off and start being productive, adding in their parts. There's other songs. We've all collaborated on songs on BandLab. Sometimes you get those songs, and that's awesome, because you might have like an hour or two in the evening to add something. You want to add something awesome, because that part that you add in there is going to live on through the song, right? So, but you only have.
And you hope you can pick it up quick.
And you hope you can pick it up quick, because you don't want to spend much more time than that, because it's not your song, right? And there's only so many hours in the day. So some songs easy to do that. You can come up with something really good really quickly, and those are the best. Other ones are, what the heck's going on here? Like, I don't understand this song, and I have to listen to one little section like 10 times, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get the flow here. Something happened here, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. So to learn this part, I have to like strain myself, and it becomes like massive amount of work. And then what are you going to play over that? What are you going to play over that? Is it going to be good? Well, it's probably going to be shit, really, right? Yeah. So, and then you've just spent a long time, and then you end up passing something into the person who wrote the song, and you may not be, supremely happy with what you did, and you probably put a little bit too much time into it as well. So for this song, pretty early on in the kind of construction of the song, I wanted to kind of set in stone the structure, so that there was some back and forth between Antonia and myself, where we worked out the chords, like I was mentioning earlier. kind of normalized the chords for sure. I got them into the key, made sure there was a couple outliers that were probably just basically just mistakes. They were pretty close, but not quite the right chord.
Now, was it the chord construction that kind of dictated the bounce there? When you go from those bouncy parts back to the soft country sounding parts, was it how you arranged the chords that dictated that, or did the drummer come in and actually make those? Because it's the
Well-
drums that makes me feel that shift.
That's
But
cool.
if
Yeah,
the
I put
drums
the
were
drums.
bouncing off of the chords, oh,
Yeah,
you did the drums too.
Yeah. So I did those. So I had a pretty good feel for the.
No wonder
the-
everything's so consistent.
Well, that what makes it a little bit easier for sure. Is other than the getting the skeleton down of the song, the structure, normalizing that, getting it on the grid too. Anytime you're collaborating with people as well, it helps a lot if something's on the grid. It's not necessarily the best way to do
Yes.
music. If you're ideally you want to be in a band, you want to be sitting in a room and jamming something out, practicing that song with those people for a period of time and getting it up to a certain level. And then when you record, okay, yeah, you can isolate your recordings, but I mean at least putting the rhythm and the drums down, like a bass and drums, get your beds down at least.
It's like
at least get
having
some
the
real
click
energy.
track.
But so you essentially you're going to have your click track that way, and it's going to be better than a click track essentially. But
Yeah.
with BandLab, when you're collaborating with God knows how many people, in this case with Tennessee, it was a band, but we're still all around the world, and we communicate through DMs essentially, right? So having something on a grid, on a click, is something that we can all fall back on. And
Being honest with each other is another thing you can fall back on. Is you can say no.
Absolutely.
You can do that. You can be honest for sure, absolutely. And honesty is the most
See,
important
that's
thing.
a lot harder in DMs though. When you're dealing with
for
messages,
me.
just like things don't translate on the internet. Well, me too. I'm always like bluntly honest. So whether I have to type it or whether I have to say it, I say the same thing. But
Right.
DMs are tricky ways to like talk musically sometimes.
Well, the value of a phone
I
call.
want to write my stuff with people I can talk to.
The other thing, just really quickly, with being honest with people. If you're in a band, there is like a traditional band, right? It's a lot easier, and there's a lot of there's like nonverbal ways you can express like excitement when somebody does something, or you can just sort of you get to know these people, right? And you're all in it together, and you're working towards, let's say, playing a show where you're gonna get $50 or whatever the hell it is, or towards an album. You've got some common goal, and there's give and take. With a lot of the BandLab collaborations, we're all doing this in our free time. We're not getting paid, and we can't really expect very much. So I'm really reluctant to be too honest with people, and I don't know if I'd take it too well if they were too honest with me either. Like, because we're doing this for fun, so we have to kind of keep everything in perspective a little bit, right?
Right.
Like
Well, there's a difference between being an asshole and being honest.
No, I'm not
Like,
saying being an
there's-
asshole.
yes,
That's clearly, but
You shouldn't have to be an asshole being honest.
Exactly. You
shouldn't
should be able to
have
say. You should be able to say. My approach. Once again, I'm going off my own experiences. My approach is one of the things in my shows that I put on is 100%. We're all on the up and up. We're all about lifting each other up, building this community. It doesn't matter how awful I personally think the music is, or how much I don't like it, or how much it's not my style. You learn to start appreciating things, but you can still be constructive on a technical level. So for instance, in your case, if somebody is sending you over a guitar part, right? They're sending over a guitar part and you just can't do anything with it. You just can't. There's no technical direction that you can go through. Be like, look, this is where I'm at. I'm not able to really do anything. This. We might try either doing it all over again, and let's try it maybe with try doing it just clean, and I'll add the effects later. There's so many options from our side, producing music and engineering music. There's so many options from our side that we can do stuff with.
Oh God, for sure. And I tell you, like as a producer, like I have some experience doing production, being paid to do it in the old-fashioned way. A band will come to you with money and with
Yes.
an objective to get the best product. And guess what
Correct.
that gives you as a producer? That gives you like not carte blanche, but it gives you a lot more. You're then in it to look. You told me you're in here for this. I'm going to try to get you here. That's all we're trying to do here.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit different with
There's
it's
a
little bit different
defined
with the
mission.
BandLab thing. With the BandLab thing, it's like who am I to say, right? So it's I totally everything you say is 100% like absolutely 100% agree with what you're saying. It's just and some sort of working relationships, even on BandLab, I've been able to have that be able to have a little bit of that give and take and stuff, and that's great. But I just feel like I can't quite push it enough because I'm just some guy. I'm some dude
know,
on
man.
the internet.
It would offend me so much more if, especially knowing what you can do now, especially knowing it from a technical perspective, it would really upset me and offend me if I sent you something and it was bad and you didn't tell me. I'd be upset.
Jake, after
He's
I've
he's gonna test you.
Upset.
Jake's gonna send you something that's total shit, and unless you're honest about it, he's gonna know.
But here's the thing, and this is where it kind of leads to the big picture, though, is because I think that we should start developing that attitude within the community of being professionally straightforward with people, because even in this collaboration, we have a chance with BandLab. And I say we because we're all early adopters here. All of us are early adopters. But BandLab has just come into 1.0 in the last 24 months. It's new. It is a new concept. It's something that's there. We've got a responsibility as early musicians on here who do have either a professional or a technical background to go, hey, we can mold this into whatever we want. And I would rather mold it into that exclusive style. I'd rather be like, hey, if I'm going to send somebody to Kevin to have him produce something, I'm gonna be like, man, you're going to have to do better. I'd rather get to that point to where I can say that. Not cool. You, Kevin, but the person I'm sending to. And we're like, hey, you need to get better.
Asshole.
Yeah. You need to get better. And
you have different opportunities for honesty. Because if you're trying to like work out a song, say with a bassist and a guitarist, and you're like, oh, that lick doesn't work, that's one kind of honesty. If you're trying to mix something, the sound engineer has I'm bluntly honest with my sound engineering advice, because I think of it like, hey, if you came into my studio and you were paying me to make this final mix, then I'm going to tell you what works and what doesn't work, and I hope that you listen to some of my advice as you put your tracks together. I don't have to be honest about your music. Your music could suck to me, and I'll still produce it. I don't need to be honest about that.
Well, that's exactly what that's what I'm talking about right there. That exact statement, because all of us have been on BandLab long enough to have gone through and pressed play and just listened to everything that comes up, right? We've all done it at least once. We've gone into a genre and we've just pressed play, and how many times do you go, man, that sucks? And you don't say anything about it. You just skip to the next song, right?
No. If I want to say that sucks, I'm not likely to put that in a comment. It's not worth negative.
And I'm not talking. And I'm not talking about
like something.
And I'm not talking. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you listen to it and you go, there is so much wrong with this that this person clearly doesn't understand how this works.
I got something to feed off of what you're saying there, Jake, because I'm in total agreement. I'm maybe not as blunt as you, and right. I'm not saying that's
I'm more blunt. No.
Yeah, but that's good. Hey, how about something like this? Just think.
I'm the worst.
What if there's like a checklist? What if we created like a checklist? Okay. And what if we got people, if they wanted to submit, and we take the personality right out of it. We take the whether or not you're a good guitar player or not a good guitar player, right. Whether or not you're experienced or inexperienced. We just come up. Okay, we just have a checklist.
With
we just objectively
a song agenda.
We objectively give you feedback based on only on that checklist. If you ask us for it, we will give that to you. We might even be able to sneak something.
I love
in
it.
There. Like we might be able to sneak something. Okay, there'd be like technical stuff for sure, but we might be able to sneak something in there, like regarding, let's say, the arrangement, right? There's
Correct.
a lot
That's
of
what I'm
songs-
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the songs that we hear, there's way too many. Just Jake, like you were saying, with circles being kind of on the verge. There's a lot of songs that are just a big mess of random instruments.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And to me,
I totally.
you know what I'm talking
On the metal side, one thing I've been noticing with a lot of the progressive metal tracks that I've been hearing on Mondays is they are double the amount of measures they need to be.
about.
Chop it in half, play this part, go to the next progression, cut the whole thing in half for every one of these parts, and you actually have a good 3 to 4 minute song. Otherwise, the 7-minute song is dragged out too much, and you have good stuff in there, but you're overplaying it.
Okay, so that could be one of the criteria, and I think that would be pretty easy without being personal. You could just say it doesn't quite meet this criteria.
And you've also got.
Well, it wouldn't fit good in. It wouldn't fit good in commercial markets. Commercial markets want 3 to 5 minute songs. They don't even really want the 5-minute songs unless they're really good.
Well, you've got to talk about it. You've got to, and that's another thing that you have to be able to check a box on. Is you have to go, is this commercially ready? Is this something? And you got to remember, this is all in our opinions. You got to remember that, you know, Luke Combs was skipped on The Voice because they said he wasn't interesting enough. Probably one of the biggest countries, probably one of the biggest countries.
Biggest misses.
Yeah, some of the biggest misses are the biggest things. And who are we to make those opinions, right? But there are certain songs and certain arrangements and certain things that you hear on here that you go, that'll never happen, man. And it's okay. And you need to be able to be professional with somebody. You need to be able to go, hey, you know what? You're going to need some more work. This is where you can work on these areas. This is where you can start getting better. This is where you excel. You know, make that shit sandwich. You know, say, hey, I like this.
Yeah.
This
Compliment
you
sandwich.
really need to work with.
Yeah.
And
see, I like Kevin's suggestion of making a list.
Yeah.
As
I
a
love
reviewer,
that.
if we had a list of like, we're going to review things and this is our criteria, that's awesome for review. And every artist should actually make a list themselves. When they make a song, they should make a list and say, what's my objective? What am I trying to do with this song? Is it to have fun? Is it to get an emotion out? Is it to say a story or send a message?
Well, and I think
every song
what they
has
should
a
do.
motivation, but most artists don't even think about their motivation. They just go in and.
I think that's part of the list. I think that's part of I think it is part of, if you're going to get something submitted, if I'm going to submit something to say this group here, if I was watching this on the outside and I was like, okay, I'm going to submit a song. When I submit that song, I'd be like, one of the requirements that I believe it should be there is why did you write this? What was it about? What are you feeling? Or not necessarily what you're feeling during this, but how do you feel?
What were you hoping to accomplish?
How do you feel about it? And that'll give you a lot of ideas, because there's some people that, I mean, we all know people that can't hold a tune. We know those people exist. We know they're out there. We know they're here on BandLab. And we also need to understand that there's some people that do it on purpose. And they're trying to accomplish a very specific goal. They're trying to stick within a genre.
Yeah.
They're trying to do
They're trying to
something.
make.
And we may miss it.
They're trying to
completely.
make a sound that sounds different. They're trying to make a sound that sounds different by doing something that doesn't tend to work in commercial music.
Correct.
Sometimes you can use something unusual like that and make a niche song, but it's very hard to
Well, you
like
got tones. You got
make
Tones
yourself
and
an
I.
artist that way.
Well, you got bands like Tones and I, or artists like Tones and I, that don't fit into the commercial bubble in any way, shape, or form. But virally, they couldn't ignore her. And suddenly, you've got a superstar in Tones and I, and she's actually super talented, incredibly talented, a lyrical style that's absolutely unbelievable. The ability to write, play, sing, record, produce, the whole thing. You know, you've got artists like that, and you've got artists
And
like.
that's the beauty of getting to see those metrics, like
Oh,
to
yeah.
see somebody who goes viral, who doesn't go commercially successful, but somehow they tear up the internet.
Oh, yeah.
That tells you something
Ooh.
about like the separation of commercial versus the audience. Because once in a while,
Yeah.
you will see the audience
Down here for
love
a second.
something that the radio doesn't.
Well, that once again, you see those things, and I was going to go on to say, and then you see people. One of my biggest letdowns in music one of the most annoying artists to this day, and I can't stand her. I can't stand her lyrics. I can't stand her music. I can't stand that she doesn't write her own things. I can't believe that the sexualization that they use to get her to the top of the list is Billie Eilish.
Yeah, they
Billie
really
Eilish
milked
is
that one.
Billie Eilish is not a talented artist.
I knew you
And
were going to say that.
she's not. Like,
You've told you've told me, yeah, and I agree. Like it's all
she's
production,
not.
but
She's
that
not.
goes to show you how far you can go with production.
Well, of course, but she's not. But the problem with that type of thing, the problem with those type of mentalities, and the problem is if we're so rigid in what's good and what's not, we're gonna miss things like Neil Young. We're gonna miss things like Amy Winehouse. We're gonna miss things like who else is a really great? Frank Sinatra would have been missed. Leonard Cohen would have been missed. All these people that really broke all the people.
They're still realizing how good Cohen really was. Like Cohen is one of the most underrated geniuses of music, bar none.
But at first glance, he sounds so terrible. You're like, oh my god, this is bad.
Well,
you start listening.
He's a genius songwriter.
Actually,
you can't measure a songwriter just on their sound.
True.
Cohen is an amazing songwriter.
I interviewed Leonard Cohen back in about 1993.
Really?
No way.
Yeah.
How did you get that opportunity?
Yes.
It was during it was English class in university, and we were studying.
Well, he was Canadian.
Yeah, he's Canadian. That's right.
Yeah,
it was like a phone conference. So I got to me and one other person got to ask him a bunch of questions. So it was really amazing. He was really well spoken. Really, it was like he was just talking to a bunch of kids essentially, and answering our probably pretty stupid questions. But his voice is amazing. His voice is he's got the best voice in the world. And I loved Leonard Cohen. Especially his early folk stuff, I thought was particularly good, where he was actually probably playing guitar and singing as well, just like really simple acoustic guitar and him singing. At
first glance, you understand what I'm talking about. At first listen, if you don't give it a moment, you don't realize the genius behind it. You don't realize the talent behind it. Tom Waits, another
great choice. Yeah,
But you're not gonna come up with a list that's going to the list would be pointless if the list would fail if there was too much like subjective stuff in there.
Exactly.
Obviously. So we have to, if we're gonna have a list, it would have to be, I think you have to sort of frame the scope of it quite a bit. It would have to be for ostensibly for people that are starting out.
Yes.
And they have actually
and are serious about improving. I don't want to review anything unless if somebody asks me for my advice on any of that, I hope that they want to improve. Because if they don't want to improve, don't ask me for my advice. I don't want to give my advice to somebody who doesn't give a shit about their sound.
Well, I also hope that it's in front of a panel like this, because I believe that me and Kevin would have very, very different views on the song.
You get diverse approaches.
Very different.
Is there? Is this like the what was that show with the? Oh God, what's that show? That musical entertainment show, which I never watched.
The Voice or America's Got Talent.
American Idol. When they first started out, like their judgment choice, their judgment choice was strategic like that. You had the Simon who was giving the production advice and like, you're not going to make it in this industry because this doesn't work, and you had the Paula coming at it from a singer choreographer perspective, and Randy's a studio musician extraordinaire. So all that advice is coming from three different people in an industry where take that advice
and
if
they
you're serious
know
about getting into
the industry, and they know it. But you've also got to remember that American Idol was very, very commercial. So commercial that they missed Daughtry.
They put him second, like the best American Idol artist ever, and he ended up getting second.
Well, I would argue that
he's my favorite. I would
argue that he's not. I would argue that Kelly Clarkson is the most successful, and by every right, she should be.
She was the first. Like she stands out on her own because of that.
Oh yeah.
And she
But I mean,
truly is like a real musical talent. She proved
but
it.
I believe that what we're getting into is we're getting into when we start talking shit. When we start talking IT, I really want to get back to it. I really want to get back to the IT portion of it, because we got lost on it. The thing that I really
That's all part of the same thing.
I really feel like the people that are like us uh, should collaborate a lot and should take advice from people. But the people that are watching this show from a normal standpoint, we've got to get back to like the downright basics, because the fact that we all know what a compressor does and how that works, but I can almost guarantee you that no one in the chat before I mentioned what it did, probably maybe one person out of the 50 40 50 people that we've got watching would know. And these are all people on Band Lab. These are
Well,
all
do they
people that are
have to though?
musicians.
Like,
yes.
Considering, well, I agree with you, they should, or at least they should
Yes.
understand, even if you just want to go on and perform and you want to lay down your tracks and let somebody else do the mixing. That's what I liked about where Tennessee was going with the mixing. Once there was an understanding, like all of you are laying down your tracks, and here is the chef that's going to mix it at the end. Taking that approach means that you all out there don't have to know all these technical details, but you do want to make sure that when the tracks get done, there is an engineer or a mixer finishing it,
You
because it's
need
as
to know the
important
basics.
as the instruments.
Period. You need to know the basics. It'd be like somebody saying, I'm going to send you a guitar track. Okay, cool. And they send you a guitar track. What is this? They're like, oh, I just picked it up, last week. It's my first week playing the guitar. You go, you got some talent, but you need to do this. You got to learn more than the G and the E chord.
Well, if they're sending you a guitar track, why are they sending it to you? Is it to add
Exactly.
some vocals or to get
Exactly.
your impression on their guitar?
But
If you're sending it to me for me to add something to, then
I'll tell you.
I'm going to listen to it a different way.
I'll tell you the use case with the guitar is if you get a guitar and it's way out of tune, right? Or if the guitar is buzzy, like if it's scratchy or buzzy, or if there's a grounding problem on their electric guitar,
correct.
or if there's massive timing issues.
So much in the old days.
So no, you can just get away from even anything personal there in terms of if they're playing well or not
technical.
well. You can just go straight technical, because I think a lot of people just you need to learn that somehow. We're all a little older, and we learn that in our own way. BandLab is amazing because it's opening up this music to so many people, and this might be the first. Maybe nobody's told them that. Maybe they just don't know. Maybe they think that's the way their guitar sounds. Maybe you can tell them, and maybe the guitar is sort of in tune, but maybe it's not in standard tuning. And it's like, well, look, if we want to collaborate here,
you have to tell people what you're tuning to.
Well, yeah, and just to make things simple, just redo it and have it tuned in for 440.
And so I would argue that on vocals, you need to understand the basics. You need to understand those basics. So when you do get the opportunity to collaborate, when you do get that opportunity, when you do go forward with it, you can meet the most basic of expectations from someone. The most basic, whether that's mic placement and whether you're doing it on a phone. The fact of the matter is there's nothing I can do with somebody that's eating their phone and singing. There's nothing I can do with it.
Eating the mic, period.
There's nothing I can do with it. There's nothing I can do with somebody that's way too far away and I'm not picking up anything. There are certain things that we can talk about from the technical perspective that we can be, absolutely 100% professional on, completely eliminate our opinions and go, hey, this is how you can better yourself. And in that term, we should absolutely 100% be brutally honest with each other. The next thing that you have to do is you have to realize that there are some people who just don't get it. And you need to be
or
able
don't
to,
want to.
Or don't
they
want to.
Just want to jam. They're just here to have fun and jam. And
you
that's
need
great.
to know the
but
difference.
Get a sound engineer on your tracks. If you're laying down good tracks and you just want to jam, find a sound engineer. Kevin, have you done any projects on BandLab that you didn't play a track on it, you just mixed?
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
you're in that situation, you get to look at it from the outside. You don't have any like personal influence. You're not on any of those tracks. Those people should appreciate the advice they get from you, and they should take it as honestly as it is. Those who don't want to learn compression should have a sound engineer handling those tracks, so that way when it's done, the sound engineer can say, hey, you were good on that, but you do got to do something about your mic. It's noisy. Made it pain in the ass for me to do what I did.
Absolutely, and I can speak from definitely from some experience there as well. So yeah, if we were looking to come up with this kind of checklist and stuff, I could definitely from experience help flesh that out. I'm sure we've all got some examples. I bet you we could collate something down into.
I really like this checklist idea. I'll go one step further. I'm going to make a mixing checklist, because all these people who keep asking me to mix and do stuff, I got certain rules and certain things that, like, I don't want to touch stuff that does this. I'm going to make a checklist and say, if you can't check off these things, don't ask me to mix it, because I don't want to have to work hard. I want to work smart. Mixing takes a lot of time. I only got so much time. Want that checklist taken care of before I get to work.
It's only
and
fair.
Every musician should think about that when they're laying down tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, I've got an example here. I'm going to put this in the chat. Who's sharing their screen right now? Anybody? Anybody? No.
No.
No one.
All right, I'm going to do this real quick.
All yours.
I'm just going to jump into something. I'm going to hide this actually, because I do not want. How do I do this? What's the easiest way for me to do this? Just like that? No. I'm trying to find the best way to hide this without giving everything away. Here. Okay. So that should be good. You shouldn't be seeing anything on my screen right now, right? You don't see
Yep.
anything?
I see a description.
Okay.
In comments.
And comments. You see a description and comments. So let's see.
Wow.
Let's find
I see what you did.
Let's find
you
a
cropped
random.
it. Slick.
Are we gonna find a random bandlabber and pick their song and write some comments down?
No, I'm going to. So yes, we are. But what I wanted to do. You know what? I'm just gonna play it. I want you to know that this person right here, I'm not picking on you. Okay, that's not what we're doing here. I'm giving an example of somewhere that a little bit of honesty would go a long way. All right, you guys can hear this, right?
Yep.
I heard this earlier.
It's for you that I try. I will live till the day I die. Giving it all that I can.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, you got that. Okay.
I'm liking what I'm hearing. It's got a lot of potential, and mix-wise, it's probably not going to be hard to fix.
Correct. Now, imagine if somebody was honest with this guy and said, hey, if you would boost this a little bit, bring your audio up.
Boost the vocals.
Boost your vocals. Bring down the bass a little bit. In fact, why don't you just record your track and let me do something with it and then show you how I did it. Now, imagine the change in that guy's entire experience on BandLab at that point.
Is going forward with the right tools and the right processes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd find out how he recorded his guitar. The first and foremost.
Yeah.
Right.
That is where I would want to start.
Yeah,
because I'd want to perfect that sound and then build everything on top of those levels.
Because
what I'm saying is, it doesn't
The
matter.
strum is the level I would build off of.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him right now because no one's telling him.
Well, he might be just putting that out as this is a song I just wrote, and I did it. I put my phone in front of me and I wrote it.
Actually, it's set up as revision number 2, and he's like, "What do you think?" And so what we're
talking about is revision number 3.
Yes, exactly.
or
But
4 or 5.
but there's artists that are like that, right? There's artists that are like that on BandLab that are absolutely fantastic. And you can tell that there's some talent behind him because that guy has got some talent behind him. You can tell that he's got tone, he can sing in tune, he can play guitar, he can sing, and he's got some lyrics. If you really listen to it and you hear it, the lyrics aren't bad at all.
And he's writing from his heart.
Yeah,
Those lyrics are coming from the heart.
really, really
He's
awesome.
writing those like heartfelt songs. Those are always easy sells if you can get a good sound. A good
Yes.
sound to a heartfelt song, the radio soaks that shit up.
And then we've got songs like, let me see if I can find it here. Is it this one?
And
I gotta find
country songs. I'm like Kevin. My family tells me I write country. I never agreed with them because I'm like, I don't fucking write country, man. I'm a piano player. I like classical music, folk, but I'm not a country musician. But they keep telling me I'm something like that, and there's a huge market for that sound. Especially when
I'll
you can
find this
mix
while
it
you guys are
as
still
good as you
talking.
did with Circles. You get songs like Circles, like that kind of sound mixed nice, and get that on the radio.
You
They're
know what? You
they're
can,
the easiest kills.
for something that's essentially a guy singing and a guitar. There's a few other things going on there too, but really, it's his voice and the guitar. All you have to do is focus on only those two things, but you need that guitar to be recorded pretty well, and probably with a couple mics, one a little bit, one
Yes.
pretty darn close, one a little back a little bit, and probably ideally 2 mics, maybe one vocal, one guitar, or
And
maybe
if there's
over
a
that.
signal, if that acoustic does have a line out, use it, and then
Yeah,
couple mics
possibly
for
there's
plucking, strumming, or any kind of sliding that's going on in the neck. Any mic that you're setting up is to capture the parts that the line signal doesn't get.
well, the line signal is this is probably potentially a contentious issue, but I hear a lot of guitars that are recorded through their acoustic guitars through their pickups through the line, and they stand out like a sore thumb to me. Like they really.
Well, see, I wouldn't use that signal at 100. I would take the line signal and bring it to like 30,
Well,
35,
then that could be good.
and
Yeah, that
mix
could be
it
fine.
with the mics and get the room dynamics with just enough of the. It's like with vocals. Like I'll take a track and I duplicate it. One's gonna have effect, one's not, and the one that doesn't is my sharpener. That one I set at a level so that I retain that sharpness of the words, but in front of the affected track, which
Mhm.
is at like 40 or 50, just to give the padding. Guitars are the same way as vocals, as far as I'm concerned. If I can get a line signal and a mic signal at the same time, turn on 2 tracks, hit record.
Yeah, I mean,
Both
more
those
options.
signals are gonna
More
get
options are
used.
always. Yeah, no, that's true. More options are always good. Yeah, having more to work with is always better for sure. Absolutely.
Just like adding a MIDI signal. Shit, man, if that guitar was a MIDI guitar and an acoustic, and I could mic it, oh, best of every world. Let me get the chords, the notes, and the sound in the room, the signal through a constant line signal. I'll use every one of those tracks.
That last track as well, really nice song and everything for sure. But there was some really there were some things that just made it stand out in not an ideal way. I think the guitar might have been panned all the way to one side.
Yeah, you might have been doing the hard panning.
Well, all I heard was the guitar on one side. If there was 2 of them, the other one wasn't loud enough, so it didn't actually sound like it was. The guitar has that guitar in that simple an arrangement needs to be in the center with the vocals. It just does. It just
that
does.
makes it feel like he's in a club. That makes it feel like he's playing in front of you.
Right. I mean,
I could see the case for panning hard one side and the other during recording. Like if you're coming in on the two tracks and the only way you could get it in was the one track on the left and the one on the right. But then once you've got them both, then yes, you want them both on the center, like you're saying.
yeah, for sure. And if you just had the exact same performance panned left and right, it's just gonna combine down into the center. So I mean, you can certainly move
Yeah.
the guitar a little bit to the left and the right.
Well, it sort of does. That's another one of a point of contention that we'll probably get into, because like Jason shows me some techniques. Hard panning in metal, when you have a dual guitar attack approach, certain songs and guitar writers do actually, and they don't take the same track and hard pan them because that's silly, but they do a second track that's damn close with just a little variance, and they hard pan for tone. Spread.
Yeah. That's different, and that's a really great technique for sure.
All right, I found the one.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it for acoustic. Like what we were hearing here. Hard panning is not what I would do on an acoustic song with just a vocal. Your approach would be better in the center because it feels more like a club sound there.
Who are we going to
especially with a steel string like that?
All right. This is the one that I was talking about.
Oh, David? Wild man.
I think that's cool too. That's cool. I mean, I think
it's experimentation.
Yeah.
That's somebody trying to experiment with tone, off tune notes.
And that's where you have to go into something is, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, we recognize.
I could see David. I've gotten a chance to talk to him. That wasn't David?
No.
He was scrolling through and David was on screen, but he was playing something on the bottom there.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I could see
him experimenting like that.
I don't like being that person. Like I said, I don't like being I don't like going and picking out something and going, this is what I'm talking about, this sucks. This is because that's not what it is.
You're picking it out for an example. I totally see the example you're talking about. That sounds like the stuff I used to do when I first got my Casio. The first like sequences I did on my first keyboard were lots of experimentations with this chord and just kind of like feeling out sounds.
Right, but there's also no way, shape, or form that song is that riff, that song, that anything is ready.
You could.
I bet you could turn that into something ready, but it would take a lot of post production.
There'd be chopping.
But I could totally turn that into something.
Imagine chopping that, getting. What you would have to do is find a certain section of it, chop it, essentially quantize it too, probably. Maybe tune
and
it a
then
little bit.
Echo the fuck out of it,
and then get like a sweet beat underneath it, and then it's a sound effect because. What you're hearing there is it's a sound effect, right? And it's fine as a sound effect, right? It's just like if you listen to any song, there's going to be certain things that if you took them out and isolated them, okay, whatever.
But let me give you some history behind the song.
Yeah.
And the chords that are being played there is a lot like I think Middle Eastern. It's got that sitar kind of like there's a twang that's constant going on in the back, and then there's these chords that are being experimented with. You turn that into like a Middle Eastern like pop song, and you might have a whole new genre.
This is a 9-year-old kid who just got his first guitar.
Yeah, experimenting the shit out of it too. Love that.
What I'm saying is, this is a 9-year-old that just got his first guitar, and suddenly we're like, oh, we're okay with that. there are people.
I was okay with it before. Knowing
there
it's
are-
a 9-year-old actually makes me appreciate the creativeness there. Because if
it's
that was
not-
a 30-year-old trying to feel out that instrument, I'd be like, wait a minute, have you tried a guitar before 30? A 9-year-old is approaching that instrument completely clean.
what I'm saying is you're okay with it. It's okay at that point. The point is that there are people out there. I'm trying, like I said, I'm not trying to go through and literally search out the bad music that I've heard on BandLab. There is bad music, and we have to be able to recognize it, and we have to be able to go, look, let's figure out what you can do. Let's mold that. Let's figure out where you do fit.
Before you
Because
do that, let's figure out what bad music is. That
we've all heard
I
bad
wouldn't
music.
call that bad music. I would say like this is
all
not what I'm going to
heard.
buy an album right
Then
now.
nothing's
of,
bad. Nothing's bad.
But I could see
There is bad. There and especially
idea
and I would definitely say in the hip hop genre, there's a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad because there's a lot of things that are being done that one of the things about rap that's really, really important, one of the things that's really important about hip hop, and anybody will tell you this, from the greatest to some of the most mediocre when it comes to hip hop, is there's expectations, right?
Yeah, sure.
There's expectations in hip hop. There's expectations of certain sorts of certain types of rhymes, certain sorts of spoken word. You could be into two different genres. You go from Mos Def to Method Man, and there's two completely different styles, but they're still holding to the idea of what hip hop is, correct? They're still
and there's different expectations. You have audience expectation, and you have studio expectations. You have artist expectations.
And
all different ones.
And so when you have someone that's like I'm using hip hop as an example because it's the easiest example for me. Is when I have someone that's very, 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 very young, and I say very young, and singing about ideals and things that are very, very mature, and the way that these things are put together, and the way that the rhythm isn't working, the rhyme isn't working, the idea and the struggle, all these things that are being talked about, you're talking about advising people that when you like that song, when you put a heart on it, when you put some fire, and where all their friends are super hyped up about it, like going yeah, and you have to go in there and you have to give them this perspective. You have to go, look, this is never going to make it where you want it to go, but you have an extreme talent for this.
I think I understand what you're saying now, because
I'm trying not to be a dick. I'm really trying really hard.
Actually, I think you're describing it perfectly, because sometimes I think I don't necessarily like something. When I put a heart on any BandLab post, it's not necessarily for one reason. I like attitude. I like attempt. If I heart it, whether they think it's because, oh, you like my music or you like this song, if it really is something technical, in the comments I'll usually say, like, this is what I liked, or I just heart it.
And that's where we're getting to, and that's what I'm talking about on BandLab in general. Is I feel like as the base, as the startup, we have an opportunity to make sure that we're building a standard, and we're building a community up that does have a standard. I do believe that
standard.
I do think everyone should be up.
That's like Kevin with the list.
Yes, I think everybody should be
encouraging a standard, encouraging protocol, defining what the fuck you're trying to do.
Correct.
You're writing a song for a reason.
And encouraging people to, like, everybody's egos are different, and people take criticism in vastly different ways. Yeah, for sure. And you can, constructive criticism is it's pretty tricky to be truly to give true constructive criticism, and have it be accepted.
It's tricky to give, and it's tricky to take.
Yeah, for sure it is. So it's and I don't. What you don't want to do as well is there's a lot of people that they might be sort of on the whatever, like they could continue with this, and it might take them literally a few years, and they might just have to mature a little bit. They might be 13 years old now, and you know what, getting a little bit of, it's kind of like your parents, like, whatever, saying good job or whatever. You need kids especially need that. and you don't want to scare them away at
No,
from
you
the
don't want to
get-go.
scare them. You don't want to break their imagination. You don't
Oh,
want to break their
and
dream.
and not just
Especially
kids,
with kids.
not just kids. We
With
see
kids,
there's a lot of people on
with
BandLab
kids,
that
you
are
want to let
effectively
them.
children
You
too, though.
you want to
Right.
let a kid discover themselves. You don't ever
Yeah.
want to like jump in the way of a kid's discovery. So if they're trying music this day and baseball the next day, you want to encourage without discouraging in those
But
situations.
remember, I'm not talking about the kids right now. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm using
when
it as
you
an
talk
example because it's an
musicians,
easy. I'm talking because it's an
whether
easy
you
example
have
for me to use.
adult musicians are still trying to find themselves as adults. Like some of those adults are like kids trying to define their identity, and they're using music for that.
I'll tell
Well,
you the
we've
other
all
thing.
seen.
A
We've all
30-year-old
seen.
doing that is like a 13-year-old.
We've all seen the bad. The. Go ahead. I'm going to let you go, Kevin, before I continue.
No, yeah, sorry to cut you off, but yeah. Okay, here's the deal. We don't know what their end goal is. They could literally just be having a good time, and that's awesome, and that's
Yes.
it. And you don't want to come in and in any way have them misconstrue what you say as you having shit on them. There's nothing like less cool than doing that, right?
Exactly.
There are definitely some people though who they position and they frame themselves as being like fucking amazing, right?
Yes. Okay. You're
But
you're
now
getting
those
what
are-
I'm talking about.
There's
You're
a
getting
but
what
there's
I'm
those
a
talking-
there's a
those are the
lot
people-
of them.
Those are the people that probably need the constructive criticism, but they're the
Yes.
ones that would be impossible to give them it too, because they're already buffered against that. You're just going to get into a war with them. So it's really tricky.
It's so tricky. It
yeah.
really is. But I believe that we can really start building at least a community of standards, and at least we can start building that now. Because one thing that happens with progressionism and not trying to hurt each other's feelings and PC and things like that is we end up with people that experience that for so long and then end up being the joke of the American Idol auditions.
Uh-huh. And they make a
that's
show
not
out of
fair.
that. Like
And that's
that
not
was
fair.
the first couple of seasons.
Yeah,
They
and
were
it's-
trying to emphasize that for the first couple of seasons, not finding
Yes.
talent.
And it's not fair because a lot of these people truly believed, because they had this community going, you can do it, you're perfect, you don't change anything, keep blah, blah, blah. And then they go here and they get in, and then they never sing again, ever. When in
Oh, yeah.
reality, some
You
of them had talent.
stifle it when you do it.
Yeah, some of them had talent and probably
Yeah.
could have built something. And that's the kind of criticism, that's the kind of constructive honesty and criticism that we should be giving. Is not criticism to bash each other down, not criticism just to be an asshole, but that honest, hey, we need to sit down, we need to have a come to Jesus meeting really quickly. We need to go, hey, this is something that if you really want this, you're going to have to work 1,000 times harder than anybody else.
And that's the key.
To make it happen.
If you really want this, establishing whether you're talking to someone who really wants it, who shows you they really want it, you'll get 150% of me anytime you prove to me you really want it. If I'm not sure you really want it, then you need to convince the rest of the world that you really want it.
Correct.
Because that's in the music world, that's what shines. The
And
ones
that's
who
exactly
shine are the
that's
ones
exactly
who
what
really
Grace
want
said
it.
here. That's exactly what Grace said here. I think shared standards are problematic when you don't have a shared purpose. You're absolutely 100%
Yes.
correct. And that's what I'm talking about. The people that want it.
Or you don't know your
people-
purpose. If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing,
Yes.
you can't wait for the world to tell you it.
Yes.
You need to figure out why you're doing what you're doing.
Because
and
I
then
can't,
let
but like
the
I
world
said,
embrace it.
I can't imagine being that person that made it so far, that made it onto The Voice, that made it onto Alter Ego, that made it onto any of these
Oh,
reality
and they have to be
music things.
crushed
And they're destroyed.
to get far.
And they're
Yeah.
destroyed. And they're absolutely brought down to below because now they've become a meme. Now they've become a joke. Now they're used as an example of what not to do. Why didn't anybody ever tell them that well, gosh, man,
Like
I
the
would,
pants to the floor guy, or
yeah,
the guy with the
whatever the
pants
case,
pants to the
whatever the
ground.
case, whatever the case, there's so many examples of that, and we see a lot of those examples being perpetrated on this platform, and that's what I'm talking about, is building
On
up a
many
community.
platforms. Many
The
platforms
I'm talking
are
about
trying to make the
specifically this one.
butts of every joke.
I'm talking about
YouTube
specifically this
does
one.
that like constantly.
Oh yeah, but specifically this platform, specifically when it comes to music, because we as musicians, we as people who have gone through and developed and gone to the extreme lengths to get to where we are, I feel like we have a responsibility to other musicians because it's our craft. Just like tattooing, just like metal crafting, just like leather work, just like any of these trades that are going around. This is a perpetual trade, and you have an opportunity to push an entire generation back on track, because when you have all
And
you have is acceptance, then at
and
that
you
point
have
then
a
you go,
unique opportunity with BandLab. It's not
yes,
your regular platform. It's not it is a music platform, but it's not like
yes,
any other. It's not Spotify, it's not
nope,
iTunes. The music platforms in those cases are just radio stations, they're distribution networks. BandLab as a music platform is this weird hybrid of social media and personal creativity.
correct.
Making these protocols and these standards and defining yourself as an artist in a modern platform like this, that's the future
Yeah, but
as an artist.
imagine
Today's
being
artists are going to
these.
have to learn this shit.
Yeah, but imagine being, imagine getting on the wrong show, right? Imagine, because we've all seen the wrong shows on BandLab. We've all seen the other people that are way highly critical and will, pause music and make fun of people right in the middle of their song. And you see those types of things, right? And I'm not, I am absolutely 100% against that. But when you have an opportunity to help someone, help them. And
Hmm.
keeping your mouth shut and just throwing a heart on something because I was like, oh well, bless your heart,
Well, I
that
wonder,
sucks.
I would, I wonder
It
why
sucks.
those shows, why people would do that on those shows. What purpose does it serve? Negative shows, I mean, they exist. There's tons of negative shows out there, but they
But you
don't
just talked about it.
feed.
You just talked about it. You remember the pants down guy. You remember him,
Well, yeah,
right? You just said it. And that's
these
exactly what I'm saying, because it sells. It's constant. It gets a rise out of people. It
these
brings
shows try
popularity.
to spotlight on that.
Yeah.
They try to
People are negative.
spotlight on that.
People are overall critical of people once they get to a certain point, but they have no problem lifting them up to that point to fall down. I would rather lift people up. I would rather start building a base to where they don't fall. They're taking smaller steps up, but they never fall. They never have this crash and burn thing where they're going from, oh my gosh, I can really do this, to, wow, Simon Cowell just said I should never ever sing again. And the
And
most of
I'm not
America
gonna.
and most of America agreed. And they all laughed at me. And there's people that are literally, you got an audience literally laughing at people. And that's
And
what I'm
that doesn't just discourage one person. That
no,
discourages, that echoes. There are
everybody.
others who watch that and say, you know what? I don't think I'm even going to give that a shot because I don't want to go through that.
I don't want to do that.
You got to be careful of social negative energy. Now that we have social media platforms the way they are, everybody should be more conscious of how they encourage negative social media energy because it's dangerous. It can fuck decades up worth of us.
And it is. It's
Getting too
currently
caught up
doing
in
it.
memes
It's
or
currently doing
you
it.
know the the down button.
But
A
yeah,
lot
it's
of people didn't
currently.
like that with YouTube.
No, it's
Why
currently
have
doing it.
that? What
It's currently. It's currently
some
happening.
people, so they feel better that they have the option, but like the thumbs down is not really a necessity. It's just something
No.
somebody wanted. I don't care how many people thumbs down. I wonder sometimes. I watch posts on YouTube and I'm like, this is an awesome video, so educational, and someone, one or two, are just like down because you must not like anything.
Yeah. But you got to remember that that's the social norm is to be critical of people once they hit a certain level, once they put
And
themselves
remind
out.
you, there's
You
always one
remind you
or
there's
two out
always the
there.
trolls. They remind you that they're always there, and they're always going to be jerks. And the way that what we can do and what we can change specifically on this platform is we'll never be able to get rid of trolls. It'll never happen.
Nah.
We'll never be able to get rid of them.
It's like saying we're going to eliminate evil.
No,
If you
you're
want
not
to get
gonna-
rid of evil, you'll take good with it. Good
It's not
goes
gonna
with
happen.
evil.
You can't do it. But what we can do is we can start right here in this moment when we're building this community up, and we're talking about IT, when we're talking about music
about
that we
it.
like, when we're talking about whatever we're talking about in this situation, we can go to the very basic forms, and we can start realizing that most of the people need a foundation. We can start building that foundation, and then we can start advancing with them. And
Define
we can
it.
take them. We can take
That
them with
was
us.
actually the whole theme tonight with Kevin was my fascination at his definition of a song construction approach.
Oh, absolutely.
Same being an artist, same being a person. Define yourself and what you're here for and what you're trying to do, and then it gets easy because you know what you're trying to do.
The IT
Trying to
IT
figure
side
out
of
on the
this
fly.
thing, whew. Too many, and that's why I kind of wanted to sideline it and go back to the most basic thing. And because I've watched way too many shows where
interrelated.
people just blowing through things and going, oh, they did this.
All of this connects.
Yeah. Don't go out and spend $10,000 thinking it's going to make you a great artist, because it's not.
And understand what the hell a great artist means to you. What is being a great artist? What does it mean to you? Then you know what you're shooting for.
Oh yeah.
Is it to be the Lady Gaga with $1 million? Is that what you think a great artist is? Then if that's what you're shooting for, that's what you need to accomplish. If it's to be the great songwriter, if that's what you're shooting for, then you got a different job to do there.
Learn to be Mark Riboulet.
What you want to be and why.
Learn to be Mark Riboulet. Learn that. Learn to go with the punches. Learn who you are. If there's any musical artist out there that is more self-aware and knows exactly what they're doing, it's that guy. There's nobody you can't show me anybody that has it more than him. Mark Riboulet.
These are the few guys in music that make a living. You know, the few in the industry that actually make a regular living are the ones who are just solid to the ground. The studio musicians that can always
look at some of the
work.
greats. Look at some of the greats that we think about. Look at, you said Eric Clapton. Now, how many people know Eric Clapton? A buttload more people than know Cream.
Yeah. True. Good. I see what you're saying. Yes.
He took
Not everybody
long
knows.
time to define himself. A very, very long time to define himself. So long. And his musical style changed and changed and changed. And then he changed into Eric Clapton that we know today. You know, Prince.
Shitty Eric Clapton today. He was good. He was good at one point. And he lost it. The past 30 years, there's been no Eric Clapton. And
you know what I mean, though.
He's an icon now.
Well,
he's an icon now.
He set his standard.
You know what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying is don't go through that now. Figure out who you are. Just go, you know what? I'm going to be me, and this is what I'm going to do. If you're going to be Mark Riboulet and you're going to have a blast and you're going to make music while you're doing it, and you don't really care if you've got the greatest voice, you're just going to dance in your underwear and your robe and just absolutely make people laugh and really, really enjoy that style of music making, fucking do it. If you want to be Kelly Clarkson, you better take some vocal lessons, because she did. Get in a choir, sing with your church, and go out there and practice every single day and have the drive for it, and have people shut you down, have people go, no, that's not quite good enough. Understand that criticism is a good, really, really good thing. Bad criticism is always going to be bad, Period. End of discussion. If you're giving out bad criticism just because you're an asshole,
Well, you're in
I'm talking
control
to
of your
you.
criticism.
Don't do that.
How you deal with your criticism is actually up to you. So you
but
can
how
either
you
let
give
that shit knock
criticism.
you down, or you can let it like empower you. Some people can turn criticism into lemonade, and others are just like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Don't be
Luke
the one who
Holmes.
just like lets criticism shouldn't kill you. Criticism should feed you.
No, yeah, I
You
mean,
can
Luke Holmes
translate
took
it
the
properly.
harshest form. Can you imagine being told you're not interesting enough to be a star? You're not interesting enough to be. Man, he turned that around on him, didn't he? And that's but you hear Luke Holmes talk about it. He says, I framed that letter. I
bet you he
that
fueled.
letter. And
From
it
that
fueled him.
moment on, he lit that fire on his own ass and said, I'm going to move.
Now imagine
Just
if
to
everybody
prove
would
to
have
you,
just gone,
like,
oh,
you're wrong.
Great. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great. And that's all he heard ever. Sometimes the best musicians and the best people are the ones that we tell them that they can't. Freddie Mercury.
Even the best musicians. You could have the best musician in the world. If they're only being told they're great all the time, even the best musician is eventually going to write crap because they're being lied to sometimes.
I already used that example.
Yeah. You can't get put into that ditch. If you do, then you're not paying attention.
And don't think it's too late either, because there are great, absolutely wonderful, beautiful artists out there that didn't get their break until way late. Look at Adele. Look how late.
Or they actually, in some cases, they get their breaks post-career. Like,
yeah,
careers have killed creative minds, and they had to go away in some cases. Like David Bowie's a perfect example of somebody who can walk away and come back at any given time throughout his career. He knew when it was
Elton
time
John.
and when it wasn't.
Elton
John, yes.
And
you saw Rocket Man, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't historically accurate, but it was like creative. Like, this is an artist I can relate with.
I almost
their
imagine
evolution.
that's how he remembers it, though. If you were like looking into his brain, that's how he actually saw it all happen.
Well, I like how they turned it. You know, usually I criticize Hollywood writers because the guild like is full of hacks. I like what they did with that one more than I did Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, I did like Bohemian Rhapsody, but
why is that though?
Completely inaccurate time wise.
What is the difference? That's a great thought, and I want to ask Kevin this. You don't have a problem saying this is a bad movie and that was bad acting, do you?
Of course not, because it's not personal. Because it's a production. There's like hundreds of people behind a movie. Even the director.
Yeah, you're not criticizing just one.
A director today doesn't even do anything half the time. Most movies today, a director just comes in and they're given something to do.
Sticks their name on it
in bits and pieces, right?
I'm talking about.
So a movie, if you're asking, so yeah, it's easy to you can criticize a movie. It's really, really easy to criticize a movie.
You can criticize. What I'm saying is, you can criticize an actor.
Well, you can criticize
for their performance.
You can criticize an act. You can criticize Tom Cruise. You can criticize David Bowie. You can criticize any famous. You can criticize Quentin Tarantino. That's fine. They're at a certain level, and there's like a differential. We're nobodies, so we're allowed to. We can. It doesn't mean anything. If we as let's say dudes that are all a little bit older, let's say, we go in and we say anything to somebody who is either younger or maybe not at a certain point in their musical career, there's way more weight on that. It's like a power differential of some sort. So meaning that you can say whatever nasty thing that you want to say about a politician, a famous celebrity, or whatever, a basketball player. It means nothing. It will roll off of them. Obviously, they'll roll.
You're saying it for an agenda. They're hearing it with an agenda. Like, what comes out and what goes in, communication is a two-way street there. Well, and people say things publicly for a reason. The truth is if you really are good with yourself, You don't have to say it publicly. People say things publicly for a reason because
I
they
just think
want it to be acknowledged.
I think that, but I think there's a point to where, like I said, I think there's a point to where you have some sort of responsibility.
I think a person has responsibility themselves, frankly.
Very much
You
so.
should have
Yeah,
some
no,
responsibility.
no, for sure. And there's a lot of people in all walks of life, not just on BandLab. They're living in a little bit of a fantasy world, and that can be a defense mechanism. It can be something that just
Oh,
keeps them
absolutely.
happy or
No,
whatever.
it's not.
And
It's not just BandLab.
yeah,
It's this world you live in.
Yeah,
It's everybody's fantasy is the world they see.
Sure. So there's really no need to necessarily pop anybody's bubble unless they ask you, unless they're serious and they ask you for advice, and it's then sort of like a contract that you have with that person.
Yes.
So if they come to you and they ask you for something, then you have parameters and you can work within those parameters and you can be basically professional about it. The only way to provide actual constructive criticism, I guess, now that going back to constructive criticism, is if it's defined upfront as to what the scope of this criticism is going to be, and
There's a curriculum.
the person has to ask for the criticism to begin with. If they don't ask for the criticism, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're either going to say something they're not going to be. They don't want it. They might be sort of willfully ignorant and they want to stay that way, or they might have a really fragile ego, or a whole variety of reasons. So it's not worth.
It's like defining a curriculum. In a teaching situation, the reason why teachers can be positive to their students at any given time is because there's a curriculum and they know what they're trying to encourage and where they're trying to encourage it, and they look for students that are interested in improving. A student who isn't, a teacher tends to a good teacher tries to help a student whether they want the help or not, but focuses on the ones who truly want to improve. And it's the same with life and artists here. Those who are really serious about helping themselves can take good advice. They can take criticism because they do want to improve. Those who want to get crushed every time somebody says, I don't like your song, if you just want to be crushed all the time, then I couldn't say enough positive things. You're still going to get crushed.
I think the analogy of a school is kind of an interesting one. If there's
That is an interesting one.
Yeah, if there's students in school, they are there. There's a construct for them. There's an objective, right? It is to learn. It is to better themselves. We don't even have
to define themselves.
Well, yeah.
When you're talking grade schools, they're there to figure out who they are, and the teacher should be helping to encourage that process.
Yeah, sure.
Figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Where do you fit?
Exactly.
What kind of person do you want to be?
Exactly. In BandLab, though, it's not necessarily a school. It is in many ways a school.
Well, it's a music
learning
school.
Well,
it's a songwriting school. It's a performance school. What are you here on BandLab for? To be a performer? To be a songwriter? You're getting schooled somewheres.
Well, there's learning. There's a learning aspect to BandLab. There's a learning aspect to everything. You walk out the door, you're going to be learning something. It's just whether or not, if a person's goal on BandLab is to learn and to better themselves, they would be the type of people that would then also maybe potentially reach out for a little bit of advice. And I think that would be amazing.
They would ask the right questions.
Well, yeah, and
those users who ask me the right questions and get my attention the first.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think for those, I think what we can do here is essentially we can filter. We've kind of discussed about how this could work or how this could be formulated. I think the great filter is basically that it's them asking for some right.
I do believe. I do agree with you on that. I do agree that just going out.
The other people, don't worry about trying to teach them a lesson. Don't worry about if they stumble.
Don't feel like it's your job
to
teach the world. It's not your job to teach everybody.
And I definitely agree
with that.
I definitely agree with that. I agree with that sentiment. I don't agree with it. Like that was why I was having such a hard time going and finding something to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Trying to find it because I'm not that person. I'm not that person that actively goes out and tries to find the best.
And you don't want to put anybody on the spot.
No,
I respect you for that. You don't want to put anybody on the spot, but you also want to show a good example.
Exactly. And I want to give an example of something. I want to talk about these things. I want to go, well, these are the types of situations we're in. And like I said, when we're building that base, you are absolutely correct. There needs to be, there needs to be that standard that we all go by. And the very first one is, yes, they should ask, period, end of discussion. They should ask for that criticism. But we should also be respectful enough to that musician to give them our honest opinion in that moment.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I hope they can take it. I will only ever be honest.
And here's
it's too much work to be dishonest. The truth is, I'm lazy. I don't want to have to live a lie. So I will not be dishonest because I don't want to have to cover it up later. I don't want to remember something I said if I didn't mean it. So I will tell you what I mean.
I use this as an example a lot of times because like one of the things that we should be criticizing right now is we should be criticizing BandLab itself. And I'm saying this on a BandLab show. Sorry, Angie.
Well, there is a lot to criticize, but there is a lot to commend too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we should
keep balancing out. Every time they piss me off, they do something that makes me say, "Oh, thank you for bringing back more than 1 hour. Awesome BandLab. Glad that you realized like that was important."
Yeah, like we should
now,
hold
hopefully
them
we
to their
fix
standards.
some of this other shit.
Yeah, we should hold them to their contest standards. And I don't even care about the technical side of it. That's cool. And that's fine. And that sometimes that'll happen. That depends a lot upon your network and what I'm talking about is like the things that they can control. They know when a song doesn't fit within the genre of a contest.
Yeah, I would hope.
Period. When it's labeled a specific genre and it still wins the contest, you're going,
you talking about country blues?
And
I'm specifically talking about country blues right now.
I know what he's talking about.
I'm specifically talking about country blues right now. But what I'm saying is those types of things should be criticized. Those types of things, and we should be vocal enough to be able to go on there
criteria?
And go, this is not the criteria for it. This is not okay.
What is the criteria of those contests?
Yes.
Is it just a popularity contest? Is there somebody in the back who says, okay, this is the winner? Or is this really like spread across the BandLab reaction? I'm not sure what it is, but I would love to know if anybody at BandLab ever wants to come on and say, like, this is how we deal with our contests.
And I would really love how the algorithm
works.
I would really love how the trending algorithm works too. I would really like to know that.
Especially that.
I think
that is
like
human.
to understand that.
I think you have humans for each category. Some categories really good, some categories really bad. Metal, it's been good the last couple of weeks, but it was horrible for like years.
I think
maybe they got a metalhead. They finally got a metalhead to start like taking care of their trending list there.
The trending list is curated for sure, and then there's the trending in tags. I think that has to do with probably just plays or likes or some algorithm like that.
Or tagging. If tagging is part of the I want to know. Tell me, if tagging and favorites. Yeah, what is the brain going on there? Let the people know, and they'll take advantage of it. Or they'll take advantage of it.
The Fabulous Fork contest, right? So that was last month's contest, and I did this on purpose because the country blues one I kind of came to a little bit late. And I was like, okay, rap song one, this is a little bit weird. Okay, fine, whatever. And so I went on the Fabulous Fork one, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the very first one to drop something here.
Yeah, I
was literally the first.
Wow,
person.
You put the first one out.
Put the first one on it, and I started getting likes, and it had the most likes for like 3 days, and I was at nearly the bottom of the list, and I could not figure it out. I was like, what is going on? And then these other tracks would be released, and within a moment, and it is not necessarily they have a ton of followers either. It was just like within a moment.
If their AI is tracking real time,
that was really weird.
If the list is reflecting traffic in the real time, on any given day, a track that gets posted has an echo for like a day or two, and then it disappears into a wall, a feed of shit. That's the problem with walls and feeds. It's not like a library, like, I'll go, boom, I can always find the songs nice and organized. Yeah. Following a feed, songs get lost in a day or two.
They get lost in 5 minutes, guys. You put a song up, you've worked God knows how many
5
days or
minutes
hours.
is actually
It's too much.
how
And
long
then-
it takes.
And then there's 100 reposts. Bury your
Oh,
song
yeah.
on the feed, right? And,
And I don't want to repost shit. Like,
of songs that you've seen being reposted and recycled for the past month.
Oh
Right?
God.
yeah.
But then your song effectively gets completely buried. Like it'd be nice if maybe your song could stay up
See,
on above the fold for
and-
like 5 minutes, for Christ's sakes, right?
And this
Anyway,
is where
that-
protocol would help. Their system right now as a social media platform with
Right.
feeds the way it is does not lend itself
No.
to
It's
an artist
bad.
who's trying to put out a song and get saturation.
So bad.
This social media environment doesn't lend itself well to the songwriting environment where and I guess that's why people have to go to Spotify or iTunes and then put their songs there to see whether they're like making traction there.
Well, that's
Because on
that's why I have to
Spotify,
ask.
you get a longer echo. You might see a 30-day metric. I put the song out, and in 30 days, it either got better and better, or it got worse and worse.
Well, it all depends on how you break through too. You got to understand how viral and things like that work. If you've got 10,000 followers and you put out a song, you've got a better percentage chance of getting plays on that. But I don't think that
You have enough followers to get good metrics. If you have 10,000
Yes.
followers and you put a song out and you're wondering whether this song is good or not, 10,000 people who might listen to that song tells me something whether I did a good song or not.
That's a
At
good
least to the
point.
ones who are following me.
And that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
about the contest is I
Yeah.
think the contest, I don't think I think people should have to go to the contest page to like the song. I don't think you should be able to share it somewhere and for those likes to get there anywhere other than from the contest page.
Huh.
I think it should be, you should do a submission and then BandLab posts that song in the order that they're received.
How about this? You go as a voter, you go to the contest page and you're given 5 songs. You have to rate each song. And that's it. Maybe you can come back tomorrow and do it again if you want.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
actually, I don't know. I mean, if you want, because
I like these suggestions. I hope they're listening right now. And any of you out there who have a good contest suggestion for like make these contests better,
because then you
PM
could
me.
get,
Because
you could
I
get-
love what I just heard here.
because you could get it. That could be like statistic. Like you could get a nice sample that way, and you would have people if they want. Okay, maybe you get something if you vote. I don't know what you get because you're going to be asking
I like
somebody
the-
for.
I like the
Yeah.
potential of a blind taste test. I
Oh, that's
would
even
love
better.
to like show me 5 tracks and let me do stuff blindly. Don't even tell me
Yeah,
who
don't
the
tell me
hell
who it
the
is.
artists are.
Yeah, that's
I
what
would
I'm saying.
actually
There you go. There you go.
and I'll give you a poll. I'll click some shit and tell BandLab like this is what I think of those 5 songs in that format.
Yeah, man.
That's like the voice style. Like, well, we can't see
Well, I
the
just hate
person.
I just hate the idea.
Somebody
that-
hits the button.
and you got to understand, there's some highly respected BandLab artists out there. So, I'm gonna use Sarah as an example. Sarah Cleary, everybody knows who Sarah
Oh,
Cleary is.
Sarah Cleary.
Everybody, anybody on BandLab knows who Sarah
Phenomenal.
Cleary is, right? Okay. Sarah Cleary puts a song in a contest. Who's gonna win?
Well, it helps that she has a really goddamn good song.
Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah,
does.
you
It
know,
does.
So
yeah,
it's kind of hard.
Not
It's
lying.
kind of hard.
She-
It's kind of hard.
Not
She has a good chance because she's already coming in locked and loaded.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that nobody else has a chance. But it does mean
Yes.
that like certain artists. Hey, Jordy Fonz, when I first got on BandLab, Jordy owned the contest for like 4 or 5 months straight. Was number 1 in multiple contests for multiple months.
Cool.
What I'm saying is the contests are basically a popularity contest of you, not necessarily your song, which I
Yeah.
think is not okay, because you put Sarah up against, Antonia. I think there's a good chance that Antonia should be right up in the, in the top couple of spots, but instead,
And
We've
you're
got-
talking about like vocal there.
oh yeah,
I mean, what's the purpose of the contest? It
it
wouldn't
depends
be
on
bad.
it depends on the purpose
if-
of the contest. For
If
sure.
if one contest, they have multiple contests. So if one is a popularity contest per se, and another one is a song songwriting contest. I don't get why they do like the contests they do, but they should have on a regular basis a songwriting contest for songwriters. Popularity contest, easy. Like, let's see which songs get the most likes and support. That's what a popularity contest is. After that, sound mixing. I mean, they should
Sure.
focus on other things than genres and have contests that encourage music making.
Oh, I think they should. I think they should start with, like I said, sticking to the frickin' genre. If I've got country blues and I've got a rap song at the top of country blue, a very, very clearly non-inspired by country in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't Old Town Road, you know, country, you know, type
That's
of song.
just
I can
blatantly
understand.
ignoring what the
This is
contest is.
blatantly ignoring the contest in every way, shape, or form, and they're at the top and they're winning, and you're going, what the hell? Why are the contests even there? You know, what's going on?
Check out the
Yeah.
Creep It Real contest is another one that's kind of going that
Is that
way.
one that's going that way right now?
Oh, is that
Yeah.
October's? Is that what they're calling October?
Oh yeah. This
Creep It
guy's
Real.
isn't this guy hitting it on two of them? Isn't he hitting mosh pit too? He's hitting the mosh pit and Creep It Real. It's the same song.
There better be some metal in that top three. Whoever does win there better be a metal track in those three.
And off the scale, I'm not even understanding what that one is.
Well, I've heard a couple so far. I started seeing the hashtag, and there's a
I'm
couple
just
in the metal
understanding.
world.
I just like I said, it's really weird. And let's see. Wait. Yeah.
And October is always a great contest month. If I was going to do any month, if I could only pick one, musically, October is my most creative, inspiring month of music.
I got another idea, guys. What if you limited the number of tags that you could put on a song, so you don't have people spamming these tags?
Well, people should be careful what they tag now. Yeah, I
Well,
see
so
a
you know
little
what I mean,
tag
though?
overload sometimes. Like some tags are relevant, some seem silly. You know, hashtag
Oh,
fire
the
doesn't
radio
mean
thing.
shit to me, but genre hashtags,
Yeah.
equipment hashtags, certain things that tell you something about like that sound that you're
Look,
listening to. Love
mean-
those.
Like I said, I think the contest should be way more regulated than they are. You know, Grace said it'd be nice to see BandLab have some sort of radio format as well that could allow you to listen to like. Here's the thing.
Totally agree, Gray.
Here's the thing with that particular thing. Then you have you still have the same problem. You still have the same exact problem that we're talking about, because if a hip hop song can make it to the top in country blues, then your Pandora station that you're going, hey, I want to listen to rock, it's going to be saturated with
It's
whatever
confused.
people put in there. It has no idea what to do. And that's what I'm saying, is that genre tag that you have, that you put in your song, should mean something. And it doesn't seem like it means
Yes.
anything. It seems like you can post it anywhere you want
Don't falsely represent stuff, because you either break the system or you misrepresent yourself, which eventually makes people say like you're full of shit half the time. You're not tagging yourself properly because you're not this.
Well,
If
that's why so
somebody
many
goes
people
to
got
you
pissed
because
off
you
at-
tagged yourself in a way that you're not, they're probably not going to go back to you again. You lose audience.
Well, I think there's
But, you know,
absolute.
Gray
I
has
think
an
there's.
excellent suggestion in the chat there. Can you guys read that?
What if you had to qualify to get into the format?
Oh, again, I love these ideas. See, I hope they're paying attention. Their contest system could use these.
Well, I think
thoughts.
they need. I think they need. I think they need. As much as I hate it, they need some sort of gate system.
Yeah.
They need some sort. They need some.
I agree. I don't like
They
it
need
either.
something,
It's a
man.
lot of hard work, but at the same time, that kind of
I volunteer as
moderation
tribute. Like,
creates
I
like
will do this.
a more consistent experience. These contests should encourage creativity. Fuck, man, you can make up to $500. That buys you your Focusrite or your mic.
Wait, I
Win
thought it was
one,
more than- I
and
thought it
you
was
can
more-
actually like. The first place gets 500.
Is that what
Second,
it is?
I think, is 250.
I thought it
Third is
actually went
100.
up.
Really?
I thought it was higher than that. Let's see.
I thought that was good.
Competitions. Here we see. Let me see what they go. I think it depends on which one it is, because there's been some that are a little
Oh,
bit bigger.
you will occasionally get contests that might have extra sponsors. Their
Yeah.
traditional monthly ones have been 500, 250, and 100.
And
Let me see.
guys, you gotta remember to hashtag Angified.
Okay. Yep.
I hope you all enjoyed the show tonight.
I
We're gonna
hashtag
have to do
Angified
a
on
part
everything.
2.
Are we getting crashed out? What's happening?
Oh, we are
Oh,
getting
this'll
crashed out.
be an evolution. This is part
Yeah.
pie.
I just think there's so many things that we can talk about in the IT department. I think the IT side of things is so broad, and we've got to really figure out where we're going to rope that into, because there is absolutely no way.
Well, on the BandLab side, what you guys were suggesting there, I hope the BandLab IT is listening, because those were awesome. If contests were more like that, I might actually do one. I don't like going in those contests because the format seems silly.
I think we should. I think
unexplained.
I have a suggestion for this show, though. I have a suggestion, because this is what I worried about when we jumped in this. When I saw Kevin's DAW in that mix, like I said, the people that are in this chat understood it. We understood what we were looking at. We knew what we were looking at. We knew what we were going through. I would argue that the best way to express what Kevin did is to have a series, and to literally start from the bottom, very, very bottom, and go, this is how you do this. Have a series of videos, a weekly series, a monthly series, whatever you take. And we actually build upon each thing, and we talk about each thing very specifically, because there is no way that we could have talked about circles tonight in a way that would have been comprehensive, that would have benefited the majority of the people watching. No way.
I like the idea of maybe turning it into 10-minute segments, let's say.
Yeah.
And then put a little bit of production behind it too. That'll be fun for us, right? You
Yeah.
can have make a little intro, a little outro.
That's what Saturdays and Sundays, all the
Yeah.
video editing.
There we go.
Hitting on the weekends.
That would be
Yeah, all this shit's being recorded, snipped up on the weekends.
Cool.
Because I actually want to learn from Kevin too. I want to learn his process, because, like I said, I have a different process, but I want to learn that process. I want to learn what you did.
I want to learn from you folks as well, obviously. So gives us that opportunity, which is great. And then let's make it fun. Let's try to make, if we can make kind of slick, concise, succinct videos that are really useful, that would be super awesome. And get a little bit of, we're all creative people. We all make music, obviously. So why don't we get some of our music in there as well? We could use, like, as an example, we could use our music as test cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Then you don't have to worry about spanking anybody. You're spanking yourself.
Exactly. We're volunteering for this.
So that would be awesome for sure. I'd be all over that. Are we
It's been really quiet.
Hanging out and back.
He's got that.
You blew his mind.
He's got that radio voice that takes you back to the sound of the 70s.
Well, it's like that chick in the Warriors. You ever see the Warriors? The radio girl through the whole thing. She was the female Glenn.
That's so
nice.
Good.
Welcome, BandLab. We're now going into the East Bronx.
Hey, Jake, is that a green screen behind you, or is that the right color green?
Yeah, that is actually. So I do. I make music videos too, and I do a lot of just fun stuff. I'm all over the place. Music is what I always land on though.
Nice. Oh, that's cool.
Music's always been the like core motivation. I'm like you. I want to do all that shit, and music gave me the reason to want to do everything else. Because I got soundtracks to go with all that
It's
video.
my whole green screen back here.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, you actually painted it, huh? Or is that
No, it's
a removable screen?
Check this out. It's a roll
It
up.
looks painted.
Oh, that
Like a
works good.
map.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's tight.
It rolls
Oh,
up.
that's awesome. And then what you have back there, is that a photo reflector?
Whoa, what? Where? Oh, back
The
behind
pad
it?
behind.
Oh,
Yeah, is that for
that's the block out
acoustics?
that's a window right there. And so I've got that whole window foamed in, and then I've got a so that blanket is full of glass beads. And so it's a great diffuser that kind of gets rid of that last bit of sound. But it
Yep.
still does not stop a jet from flying over and coming through my roof.
Right.
Now I
right,
love
right.
how you got the lights set up. What is that giant? Is that a tablet or is that an actual dedicated light in the left?
Yeah,
of
these
you?
are I've got two. I've got this one over here on this side, and then I've got another one on this side. They're dynamic LED lights, full RGB.
How much
if I
did
want
that
to
run
change
you? LEDs are not expensive.
No, they're not. I think both lights and stands, I think it was like $200.
Nice.
Yeah, $200.
So
No big
100
deal.
a piece. Yeah, that's. I wish I had that in photography for like bottom lighting or even front lighting. Those are killer.
Well, I've got
and so much
22 of
cheaper
them.
than the old school reflectors.
I've got 20 of them. 22 of them. Because I've got my Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I've got all my Cine lenses. I've got all my lights. I've got all my other stuff. Yeah. I've got way too much money in video, and I don't use it nearly enough for what I should. I got really beat down during the pandemic, and I lost a lot of stuff. Let's put it that way. I've got a video. I've got a video that I shot for T-Pain in Louisiana. It wasn't just for T-Pain. It was a collaboration with a bunch of artists. I was down there. I was part of the film crew. I was one of the videographers, and I've been waiting for now 3 years for that song to come out.
Oh, wow.
3 years. I still can't show you the video.
They haven't released it on an album yet.
I'm on an NDA right now.
That's the holdup.
I'm on an NDA right now. I can't do anything with it right now. Filmed it 3 years ago.
That's
So-
like those ships. That's like those ships sitting in the ocean right now for no reason other than stupid shit waiting to get processed.
Yep.
It needs an album and it needs to be put out on the radio before you can do what you need to do. Correct?
2019 into 2020 just killed me. It was just absolutely awful. And so I haven't ever fully recovered into it, but music keeps me going, like I said. And so I enjoy it, and it'll eventually pop back up, and I'll eventually get some more clients and things like that. It's a really competitive market here in Utah too. Everyone in Utah has a camera. Everyone in Utah has a camera. Everyone in Utah has a camera. It's so bad.
I'm surprised to hear there's a media production market in Utah. Like
What are you
Canada,
talking
not
about?
surprised.
Dude,
Canada became like the second Hollywood over the last 20 years. But when you're looking across the United States,
you need
where-
to take a moment
you
and just
at?
go back and look at how many films, because you got to understand what Utah has that no one else has. We have the salt flats. We have a desert environment. We have a mountainous environment. We have a plains environment. We have a forest environment.
that covers a lot of different films.
We have so
Yeah.
many. We've got We've got Yellowstone. We've got all these different things that are here, and you got to understand. Sundance Film Festival is in Utah. Sundance Film Festival is in Utah. It's at Sundance, Utah. in Park City. And so what I'm saying is the amount of films that are filmed here, you would be absolutely blown away at how many films and how many productions are done here in Utah. There's so
Actually,
many.
just describing all those scenic situations there,
Oh
now
yeah,
it makes
it's insane.
sense.
It's
How you
crazy.
attract to Hollywood, like Georgia sucked up half of Hollywood just by making tax benefits, just like Montreal. And you know, the way that they slurped Hollywood up in the last 50 years was mostly like it's cheaper here.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, that's
yes,
why we
you have to
lost.
have the scenery. If Utah has all those different landscapes, you can be making Game of Thrones over there and making, Yellowstone over here.
Well, that's why they lost Yellowstone, though. That's why Yellowstone is no longer being filmed in Utah.
Well, aren't they
Is
doing the
because
prequel now?
well, they
The
screwed up.
prequel's about to come.
Utah screwed up, and they didn't give them the incentives that they were giving them before. They kind of tried to get
Yeah,
greedy,
they're shooting
and now
they're shooting the
they flipped it
prequel
over.
in they're shooting the prequel in Georgia.
Yeah, they flipped the script. They're like, no, we want you back. It's okay. We'll give all the benefits. The incentives are good. Come back, because the film industry really suffered here. But when I say Utah is the hobby state, Utah is the absolute hobby state. There are more drone pilots per capita. There are more amateur photographers per capita. There are more hairstylists per capita. There are more MLMs per capita. There are more. There are all these things. It is a serial hobby state. Like there's just so many things to do here, and everybody does everything. But it also makes the
See,
market
and,
really,
and
really
and there is a
incredibly
lot of
saturated.
media production opportunities. When
Oh
you
my
talk
gosh.
media production opportunities, it is places like that that become the future Hollywoods are not in one state,
God. The music scene
especially with
sucks here though.
CGI and
Music sucks
oh
here.
yeah.
Absolutely blows. I just it's everyone has this weird mentality here that they're going to make it. And
Well, and so
I
many
think that's why I think that's why I was talking about the things I was talking about tonight, is because I experienced that on a personal level in the music scene here. Um, there's so many people that have this idea that they're going to make it, and they look down
what's
upon
the
other people.
live scene like there? Like if you're gonna make it in Utah in the music scene, what's the live scene like? Because if you're gonna make it in music, I guess locally it's gonna be through a live scene.
Dude,
Otherwise,
it
these
is
days there is
no.
no place that will be a music scene. Music is
You're not
all over the fucking
you're not
world.
understanding. People think that they can just go straight to the top here. They don't need to run the circuits here. They don't need to. They're too good for Bert's Tiki Lounge. They're ready to roll up in, and they need to get signed now. And I know you think I'm saying that sarcastically, but
No,
I'm
no, no. It's
dead
always been there.
serious.
We are seeing the same types of people and artists that we have always seen. Yes, the
Oh
scenery
my
has
god,
changed. Like the virtual music scene has changed things. The dynamics aren't the same, but you still see the same attitudes.
it's
You still
bad
see
here.
those who just want to
So much
shoot for the
worse.
top.
Because
Give
I've
me
been
the
to
contract, then I'll give you the music.
yeah.
No,
So
make that
I've been to
fucking music
Seattle.
because they're not going to give you a contract till you
Yeah,
do.
I've been to Seattle. I grew up in Texas, on Oklahoma and Texas border, red dirt country. I've seen those artists. I've seen the artists that really work. I've been to Nashville. I've seen those artists really work. I've been to, LA and seen those artists really work. Like I've
I
seen
really want to
artists
talk to some
work.
Nashville engineers. We were
Oh,
going to have one
dude.
on tonight. He's going to be on later. John Statham. He's coming out of Nashville, and he's gotten some, production work out there. Really interested to see
I would say the best
where it's
engineers
at
in the
right now.
United States are in Nashville. I think they're I think they're the absolute best, because one thing that Nashville has that a lot of other places don't have is Nashville has this unique ability to record and engineer clean.
Mm. And it's not just country.
No,
Nashville
it's
has
clean.
defined itself across genres.
Little to no effects.
Jack White moved down there, and he kind of brought a lot of rockers and indie
Oh
people.
yeah.
It
as
brings
an
the
example.
producers.
And
Nashville's
I'm
a
talking-
magnet for the great producers.
But you know what I'm talking about? That Nashville sound. They have the ability to produce this clean sound that no one else does. It's clean. It's limited on effects. It's not overproduced. It's the sound in a raw produced format in Nashville. And I saw your face there, Kevin. You got to remember, when stuff leaves Nashville, it's a totally different story. What I'm talking about is what you get in Nashville. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever, like, Glenn, you've been in Nashville,
It's
right?
like leaving Vegas. What's in Vegas stays in Vegas,
Yeah.
but you still leave with something.
Like,
I have
if you
not been to
ever-
Nashville.
Okay. So there's like this whole live sound thing that happens there that's absolutely insane. Like
Yeah.
you should visit Nashville. It's incredible.
awesome,
And-
awesome.
I would love to.
It's wonderable. Like I wish
If they
I could.
heard your ass, Glenn, if they heard you in Nashville, they'd never let you leave.
No, they'd never let you leave. Ever.
Like, he's ours.
We're keeping
keeping
this
him.
one.
I might have to go visit them.
They'll suck you in, man.
Definitely.
Oh, especially if they find out you're a bassist and a guitarist and all the other shit.
Oh, if they
They'll
find
be
out they
like,
can
"Oh,
use you
with
oh,
that
you'll do
voice.
it.
Mhm. I'm all in.
All right, guys. Well, I think I'm out for the night. I think I'm done.
Yeah, we
Yep,
did
yep.
well.
A time
We did
for
well.
work. In the
I
morning.
like the fact that we did get cut off at an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Thank
It's a
you,
bonus.
Van Lab.
It's a bonus that keeps the time going.
I know. Is Angie gonna come in and ring us out?
Actually, I
welcome.
think Ange might have gone into pumpkin mode, but I got
She
her
going to
machine
pumpkin mode?
here. So
Guys, it was really nice.
Uh,
Nice meeting y'all for sure. This was super cool.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
yeah, it was
absolutely.
awesome, Kevin. So
forward to
glad
talking
that you
again.
finally got on.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was looking forward when Glenn started showing me that shit, but everything you've been telling me, especially with what you showed me with Reason, you caught me right back up, like in minutes.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah.
Don't listen to my music and judge me, Kevin. I don't like it.
Don't judge
I'm
me.
beyond criticism.
Me
you know
too.
what? I'm gonna be
Let's-
the
let's-
next American Idol.
That's the deal. I hope it goes both ways.
Well,
As we-
you are in Utah, right? So I guess that's par for the course.
I know, right? No, I really enjoyed it, and I'd love to get your feedback on some of my stuff, and I'd love to work with you on some collaboration and mixing collaboration as well, because I'd love to see your processes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd love to get that idea.
definitely
I'm
look
always
forward
down
to
for be a sponge.
Sweet. Yeah, likewise for sure. All right, gents. And that's I guess we're signing off. See you,
There you go.
Angie, if you're around. All right,
Great
guys.
talking, guys.
Making
Okay.
weird hand movements right now.
Bye-bye.
Later, man.
Later.
Great to talk.
Goodbye, everyone. Be as creepy as possible, I guess, right? What you're supposed to do.
That
supposed
sounds
to be-
about right.
Make weird faces.
Always a good plan. Weird faces and close up.
Oh, weird faces and
you-
close ups. Always the way to go.
You got to grab one of those snap cam filters. Ange
That's
had
right.
some creepy ones earlier.
I think it's creepy enough that I just shaved my beard.
There you go.
I like it like that. You and Soulmake, the two of you would be Stash Brothers.
I'm getting there, man. I'm going for the Sam Elliott stash. I eventually want to get that thing going. It'll never happen, but I'm gonna try.
I'm always
tried
going for
really
the
hard.
Cheech and Chong, like the Cheech, like totally stoner sloppy. That's me.
I feel like eventually, if I keep going, one day I will have a Sam Elliott stash.
Nice. Trying to just talk the stash into it, right?
I
You gotta
haven't.
coax it
I've
out.
I've been talking to it. I've been petting it. I've been loving it. It's got all sorts of oils and amazing things. My
Ange
wife is
still
so
here.
jealous. Dude, that was a fun show though. I really enjoyed that one. I
Mhm.
think we're still live, aren't we?
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna be talking about my
figure-
stash.
Well, these are the secret tips.
The style
The
tip at the
keys
end.
to great sound
Hey,
come
guess
from
what,
the
guys? You
stash.
still get the bloopers. You get the blooper reel at the end, no matter what. Oh,
I
jeez.
credit my great sound to my stash.
I gotta
and
say,
my
man,
beat.
like Kevin's mix is incredible. Like
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm still blown away,
you
man.
gotta hear a couple of them like back to back.
I was blown away.
Especially, I got to hear the original tracks as they were getting laid out. So I really did hear circles across multiple phases,
Right.
and it just like turned into exactly what it should have.
It's a brilliant song, and it amazes me because I don't think I would have been able to stop. Like it was just that he hit that moment. Like I said, like he was 1-2 tracks away from it being too much, and that's the beauty of it. Is that he just hit it right in that sweet spot, and it was just perfect. And
And
he
I've
was.
been in that situation where I
I
went
have too.
one track too many, and I'm like, wait a minute, now I need to stop because there's too much, and it's not easy to jump back once you hit too much. It's not about turning off the last thing you did. At
Oh
that
no,
point, it's
you're
like,
done.
wait a minute, where did I go wrong?
Where did it
Can
become too much?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not. That's why revisions are nice. Like, I wish I could incorporate their revision system locally in a
I
way
wish I
that
could
would benefit
recreate
me.
the revision system in my whole life. Like let's just do this again. Let's find the good parts. The revision
back up
system
to
is perfect.
back up to this decision and go
A
everything else from
revision
there.
time machine.
Yeah. The revision time machine. I really had a blast, you guys. Thanks for having me on again. I was actually
thank
kind of
you.
surprised. Angie came and she's like, they want to have you on again. I was like, really?
Are you kidding? We always want to have you on. You are a bundle of knowledge I love to learn from.
Well, I try to bring some controversy too. I try to bring some opinions that'll get people talking because like it's really easy to be agreeable. It's really easy to just be agreeable. And
See, I have a hard time being agreeable. I I feel like it's work for me to like be agreeable when I know that the things I'm saying to the people I'm saying, I know when they're not going to agree with me, and I'm hoping that like what I'm going to say is in a way that I can get them to agree with me. When it comes to sound and like music direction, all that stuff, that's where being honest is hard but important.
oh yeah, it's very hard but important, and that's why I wanted to jump down that rope. I kind of felt like I kind of led it that way because I felt like the show had a different purpose tonight, and I kind of took it in a different direction. But I was like, man, this is going to be lost on everyone.
It's all interrelated. All the things we talked about they're all interrelated. A lot of this was initially we were talking about song structure, but it is all interrelated. Artist definition, the checklist he was talking about. Like, I'm glad I got this recorded because these are ideas that should not get lost. Yes.
I definitely want to talk about that again, and I definitely want to. I think we should talk to Ange about doing. Oh my gosh, my video went weird again.
I think we should talk. Paranormal entity.
All right. I think we should talk to Ange about doing maybe even a twice a week show, to where we get submissions, and we start for the first couple of weeks we're building that checklist, going,
absolutely.
We didn't even think about this.
Establish the smoothest path for submissions, whether it's a hashtag approach or whether it's like go here submit. The smoothest path of submission is what will make that happen.
Well, not only that, but also figure out what needs to be on that sheet. What do we standardize? Yes. What do we standardize? That's really important. Do we standardize the same thing for top liners that we're going to establish for
if somebody's sending something for review, either they're asking what they want constructive criticism on, or they're submitting it knowing that they're going to get this type of constructive criticism. You're going to give a different criticism than I'm going to give. and Eagle Ears Glenn. Like
We also need to be.
there's your Randy. We got our Randy over here who's just like genius.
We also all need to be very good at gatekeeping, and we need to make sure that we're keeping people honest. Because one of the things that I don't want to do is allow someone to submit someone else's song.
Yeah, that'd be no good.
That would be.
Well, I would hope
like,
that
ooh.
whoever submits it is submitting their own stuff. Unless the purpose of what that submission is like, hey, recommend a friend. That's a
It's
theme
nefarious.
for something. I wouldn't want it for reviews. I would want reviews to be submitted by the person, like you said earlier. If they ask for your
Yes.
opinion, then they are inviting it. They are saying, I want to grow. Tell me what you think. And I know there's a lot of those artists on BandLab because I see it in the descriptions all the time. Like, I want you to tell me.
Tell me what you think.
Ironically,
Do you
a
guys
lot
like
of
this?
people don't comment when the
No,
artist
they
asks
don't.
that. But the artist is saying they want criticism, that in all forms, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Let's see. I think I've actually asked on almost every single one that I've dropped. Let's see. No, maybe I don't.
To me, it's kind of the act of posting is also in a way asking for
Yeah.
feedback of
Yeah.
whatever type from the community.
See, that's my mentality. Anybody who does post something is saying they want some criticism in the action of posting.
Well, especially submitting if you
Otherwise,
submit
keep it to yourself.
submitting it to like a contest.
Yes.
Yeah.
The moment
No.
you're submitting it somewhere like that, you're really saying like, I want to compete.
Yeah.
That's the competitive nature.
Sometimes also just doing a partial song where it's just just some chords or whatever, just an idea, get that down, get it out, and just put it out there. Not even so much as to see what you think, but hey, jump on, and
Holy cow.
join it.
There are 94 people in here watching us in our blooper reel right now.
Sweet.
Like, you guys missed it. Like, the chat has been
Oh.
unbelievably slow.
Oh, I got to
Wow.
refresh mine. It's been, yeah. Well, last couple of days. I mean, great that they turn back on the long streams, but the chats are very hard on the computer to stay live.
That's
They do
weird.
better actually on the mobile, but I hate mobile.
Well, I've been
and
looking
I'm not
at
going to
it.
type in.
I've been following the whole time, and it's just been it's been relatively like people are just quiet. Do they just listen to the show and go,
It's like a podcast in that sense. Be listening to it as you drive.
Yeah, I guess. I guess we've all got really sultry, fantastic, velvety voices.
And it is.
Oh, I'm hiding behind you guys.
And then there's Tony.
Although I might be able to pull off the stash, but if they're in their car
Yes.
listening, they ain't gonna be able to appreciate it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one though. Like, this is a good time. Man, I'm excited to get things moving here, and I'm excited for BandLab, and it just blows my mind. Like I said, my day today trying to, because I try to get into new music as often as possible. It was just so hard today, man.
Well, at least
So bad.
at least when you're driving, you get review time. I mean, if you're lucky enough to be able to listen while you're driving,
Oh, yeah.
I wish my jobs were like flexible like that I could catch some tunes while I'm working. I miss those days.
I just throw my Bluetooth headphones in and go, and I just listen from my radio. I drive my truck by cameras anyway, so it's not like sound is going to help me in any way, shape,
Oh,
or form.
nice. So it's got a little AI going with the
Oh.
cameras, huh?
Oh no, there's no AI whatsoever. I drive a 110 797.
Oh, you're
articulated
using
motor.
it actually for reference. You're actually like controlling it with the camera.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
no
sitting in
AI
the driver's
involved.
seat, and I've
Yeah.
got 3 cameras that I've got to watch to make sure.
I think that's so hard. my parents' car has one of those rear view, nice big screen, and I can see as I'm reversing. I cannot reverse this thing looking at that camera. I have to turn my head like old school.
It's
It's
a
the
natural
only
thing.
way I
Man.
can reverse this thing.
Oh, I can't see behind me. I have 100 tons of potash or salt behind me, so I can't see behind me.
Yeah.
There's no rear view mirror.
I don't know how you guys did that before the cameras.
I have no idea how they did it, and I don't really care. I think that I got AC. I've got
Very
heat,
carefully.
I've got all these really amazing things that they didn't have before, and I don't really care to learn it the old way. I've got an automatic truck. I don't even have to shift anymore. I just go reverse, forward, back, and I've got a few gears that I use for special occasions. Yeah,
Oh,
I run
nice.
a.
The big ones are now automatic too.
Oh yeah, they've done everything they can to take the distraction away from actually driving it.
Yeah.
Because that's
Less
really the
things to
most
kill
important
people
thing.
on the road.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you run over somebody, it's not a matter of, oh, you could stop halfway. They're popped like a zip by the time you got up to their ankles.
Especially.
By the time you hear the scream, it's way too late. And one of the funny things about these trucks, one of the funny things about my job is their biggest pet peeve is us getting out of the trucks. They do not want us out of the trucks, like at all. Like they're like, don't
Why?
get out, don't get out, don't get out, don't get out, don't get out.
Is it
Because
liability or?
that's just our place. That is our control. That is just, we are there to drive. We are not there to do anything else. And I kind of like it. Sometimes it gets a little boring. Sometimes I like to get down and do something different, but I get to listen to podcasts all day or music all
I
day.
want to get out.
I'm like, I need to stretch. No, I get out for like a bathroom break or something like that when I need to. But yeah, it's really funny how big these things are. Like, I'll show you. Do this really quickly. So I drive a 797F. Let me share my screen. This is what the 797s look like. Trying to find one. Let's find one for reference. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, damn, you get to play with the real toys. Oh, shit, that's one I wanted as a kid.
Yeah,
that's what I tell people.
That's a Glenn size truck.
Oh,
Yeah. Here's my interior.
Are you kidding? Look at the size of that human next to
So
that.
I've actually
That's
got
a dinosaur.
I've actually got a different interior. I've got this interior. I've got two seats in mine. And then so I've got the camera up here.
Now, you don't drive that for long distances, right? Like, you're not driving that across states, are you?
Oh no, not across states. I drive it. It's
Yeah,
I drive
You're doing that. Yeah, you're doing that for like process.
I wouldn't picture that on a
Those
road
are-
even.
No, I drive on about 210 acres.
Because it looks like it's too big.
Damn,
right?
you gotta
If
own
If you try to put that on.
You
a
gotta
main
own
road.
those 210.
They're mine, man.
Yeah, you own that 210 acres.
Yeah, so that's my job.
Unless there's a bigger truck.
Sweet.
Is there a bigger truck than yours there? Because that's got to be one of the biggest trucks.
No. That's the biggest truck there. We have big giant loaders that actually load everything on there, and they're usually the biggest.
Well, I would imagine
backhoes
the
you've
shit
ever
that
seen.
drops, whatever's like filling that. I would imagine that's got to be a monster too, like a T-Rex style. Here,
They're
drop
pretty big,
into
yeah.
there. But that is a cargo power horse. You're moving a lot of shit.
Yep. That's what I do.
It's like that's one of those things where you could fit like 4 regular sized dump trucks in the back of that thing.
Yep.
Yeah, moving and shaking.
Yep, that's basically it. And it's pretty cool. Working at a mine is pretty cool for that, but it's crazy. Like I said, they don't want us out of the trucks. Like they're like, don't get out.
Yep.
Okay, they're like, if if there's something on the ground and you need it checked out, call us, and somebody will drive out there and look in front of us for us. Like
Oh,
they
no
don't want
shit,
us
man.
out. Like it's one of those things. It's like it's
Well,
crazy.
it's got to be like a 10-minute process to get out of that thing.
It's
You
not
can't
that
be.
bad.
It's not like you're just opening the door and getting out.
Oh yeah, you are. You're open the door and just walking down the steps. No.
Yeah, there's a lot of
But it's
steps.
they just have a thing about control out there. They have a thing about you being in your equipment, and you know there's a lot of safety and things like that out there, and it is a really highly corrosive environment. There's all kinds of crazy stuff, but yeah, that's what they want from us, and it's like okay, and so
What are they mining out there? What do they
potash
mine
and
in
salt.
Utah?
So the site that I'm on is potash and salt.
Potash?
Yep.
What does
Yep.
potash get used for?
Fertilizer mostly.
Ooh, then that's got to be a huge market.
Giant, incredibly huge market.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
I understand salt. They will suck all the salt from this planet because it's like sugar.
It's funny. It's really cool how they do it too. Like there's all sorts of science and shit that went into it. And the guy who kind of started the whole thing had this really crazy idea, and they dug a trench across the bottom of the Salt Lake. This big trench, right? He had this engineering idea. He understood that brine was heavier than the salt water and would settle at the bottom. And so they figured out a way to just dig this trench. There's no piping or anything. They just dug this huge trench across the bottom of the Salt Lake to create this brine, basically pipeline, and all the brine
Filter.
settles into this trench. And they pump the brine out, and they can do that without upsetting the basically the top half of the water in any way, shape, or form. All they're doing is messing with the brine at the bottom. It's the brine in its purest form. And so they pump it all into these huge giant ponds, and the nutrients soak into the salt beds, and either you produce salt or you produce potash. And there's like all sorts of algae and crazy things out there. I see salt that's pink, and I've realized I'm gonna really upset
is that
everyone.
from concentration? When salt changes colors, is it from concentration? Like it's more
It's from
salt than other salt?
it's actually just from
Or is it
bacteria and algae.
other shit?
Bacteria, yeah.
Bacteria and algae change the color of it. So I'm gonna break everybody's hearts. That Himalayan sea salt that you're buying at Whole Foods, it's from Utah.
Salt is from this planet. At the end of the day, comes from.
It's
the
not
planet.
special because it's pink. It's not special because it's pink. It doesn't mean it's from the Himalayas because it's pink. It's actually from Utah. The Morton salt plant is here in Utah, and so most of the Himalayan sea salt that you see is from the Morton brands.
And why do people buy something? Because if you buy chips, is it because it's seasoned in sea salt? Are you buying it for that versus not? I don't understand why they started using that in like the last 20 years as like, oh, these are sea salted. That's not why I buy those chips. It's nice to know like what it's flavored with, but at the same time, is it a real selling point? Do people really want a certain kind of salt? And if so, why? What benefit do you get from salt from here versus salt from there? Salt is like sugar. It's simple purpose. Body converts it.
And there is a lot of salt. So don't get me wrong. There is a lot of Himalayans. I hope everybody understands.
I would understand dirty salt. If you told me there's some salt that will run through you like shit and other salts like nice and clean, tell me which salts and I'll test it.
There's so many different salts out there too. You got to understand there's salt for human consumption. There's salt for animal consumption. There's road salts. There's all kinds of different salts, and it all matters on the processing. And I hope that everybody understands too that like only like a very, very tiny percentage of Himalayan sea salt actually comes from the Himalayas. Most of it's from Pakistan, and the rest of it is from Utah. So even the Himalayan sea salt that you're getting from overseas, and
It's
you're
like, you
oh
mean
no,
this
this
isn't
is
from
not from
Poland
Morton.
Springs?
Oh, it's
Fuck, I
from
thought this water was
Pakistan, man.
Poland Springs.
Like, it blows my mind at like consumerism, man. Like, consumerism blows my mind sometimes, and
It's
that's it.
Moland. It's not
it-
Poland Springs, it's Moland Springs.
And that's what I talk about in the music thing too. It all ties back in the music side of things. You know, the consumerism of the music side is absolutely completely out of hand, especially when it comes to gear.
Yeah.
There is
Well,
so much gear out there, so
in
much.
some cases, you're being fooled. When it
Oh,
comes
yeah,
to that,
absolutely.
like marketing that goes on in the music world, whether it's instruments or music, you're being fooled in some cases. They're trying to sell you shit, whether you want it or not.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the difference between an Apollo and a Universal Audio interface. And then you go, oh wow, this is pretty cool. And then you go, well, what's the difference in that and the Focusrite? You know, is the Focusrite not as
A
good?
couple of dollars.
It's all Sony guts.
And support. Driver support. Yeah. This shit works
It's all
for
Sony
6
guts,
months.
man.
This one works for 4 years.
I like I said, there are differences. Don't get me wrong, but for most people jumping into the music industry, getting into recording and things like that, go with what's in your budget. Don't make a huge ginormous budget. You're not going to get anything out of it. I mean, there's certain
Well,
things
get
that are
something.
really cool.
Get something out of what you have now before you
Yes.
start talking about getting a bunch of other shit. Carriage, horse. Figure out which one's in charge. Horses should lead carriages.
It's like you know, when I discovered that, you know, that's how I discovered the microphone that I want. You know, we even talked about it. Like, what did we talk about it a couple of weeks ago? We talked about this Telefunken stereo mics that they have out right now.
Yep.
But I still stuck to my guns, and I'm sticking around. I'm holding out for the Manly, man. I'm getting the Manly because it's what I want. It's
I like the fact that you're determined to get stereo mics for their flexibility. And why
I'm
the
not
flexibility that you
gonna.
want. Because it can be both a stereo mic option and it can also be a like multiple mic option.
Oh no, what I'm saying is I'm not getting the Telefunkens. I'm sticking with my original, and I'm going with the Manly. I'm not getting the Telefunkens. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
He's going Manly.
I'm going with the Manly reference. That's the mic that I want. It is the mic that serves my purposes. And
Aren't they expensive as shit? I did not see anything cheap from them.
oh, you never will. So the beauty of Manly, and this is what I really like about them. They are so stupidly, incredibly crazy anal about their QA process.
Well, everything's precision made.
Oh,
Like,
everything. And it's
It takes
all
a human
every
to
single-
build this.
every single piece of Manly microphones are made in China. They're literally made in China. They're like I think they're the only, like, I think I take that back. I think they get their tubes from Germany. I think they
And
get
the
their,
fact that they're still using tubes, because that's a hard decision in
Yeah, yeah.
2021.
like they're not moving away. And that, I mean, but that's why you're paying $4,000 for the
Tubes
mic.
serve a purpose.
Oh,
Sound
yes.
wise, the decision there, I actually agree with it. It's a hard decision. Like
Oh,
to
yeah.
make a mic like that in 2021 is ballsy, but you serve an old school audience. The people who buy your shit want that sound.
Oh no, it's
that
not
you
even
get from tubes.
it's not an old school audience. It is a quality
Well,
audience.
it's that new school audience trying to capture that old school quality. It is it's the audiophiles. It's the ones who want the perfect sound.
When you hear that,
They're the
oh
ones
my
who
God.
buy the high end stereo equipment to listen or the high end instruments to play.
So I never knew the difference. So I went to, what music thing did I go to? I went to something. It was some convention, some music convention. I don't remember. I was really drunk. And
See, that's the one convention I would try to stay straight for. I've been to like comic conventions,
no,
got
it
hammered.
was It was so
Music
much fun.
convention, I'd want.
It was so much fun. Like there was so much stuff to spend money on. It was just absolutely insane. That I was having a ton of fun. I absolutely enjoyed everything, and that's the first time that I ever came across Manly mics. And so they had
And you
like
get to
this.
see them in action.
Well, it
That's
was
why I
funny.
want to go to one of those.
They actually had this booth set up, right? And it was pitch black, and you'd go in and you'd sing into a microphone. You had like this red light that you'd sing into. Like it was just this red light. It was super, super black in there. And they had both of the mics on like the same, what do they call that? The springy thing. What's
Stand?
it called? What is it called? That's the thing.
mount?
The shock mount. The shock mount.
Ah,
That
yes.
thing. I'm getting nostalgic and I'm getting like drunk thinking about it. Like I was really wasted. But I remember going in, they had like both mics on the same shock mounts. It was super dark, and there's like a red light, and you sang into this red light, and then you went into the other booth and you sang into this red light, and then they
Wow,
played it
you
back.
did a taste test? You did a taste test of mics and they played the comparison for you? I
Yes.
fucking love that.
Yes.
Dude.
Come to find out, they weren't
In the
messing
dark?
around. In the
Like
dark.
you just went in, you calibrated by light in the dark.
Yep. You just
I love that
like
approach.
they have the pop filter there, and you sing into the you try to get the same distance, of course, because you want to be giving them both the same shot, but you don't know which one is which either, and so you don't have that opportunity. And so we did this whole thing,
And that's how you know whether you like the sound of something.
That's how I knew that
Don't
there
know
was a
what you're
difference.
choosing. Listen.
Well, that was
And
the
when
first
you
time that I
listen,
understood.
pick.
That was the first time that I understood that there was a difference. Turns out I was going up. They were going up against a Neumann. They weren't messing around.
Oh no, they put you up against the top.
They were like, "Hey, we're gonna go top of the line against top of the line," and they were so confident that you would know the difference, and you did. And there was no trick of engineering. There was nothing special. Like they literally had like this this mixer. It wasn't going into an interface. It was like going into like an analog recorder with like a SD
Well, a
card.
good test.
Yeah,
A
it
good
wasn't.
signal test should keep it simple.
It was like, all right,
the
here's this
actual
one.
mic.
Here's this one.
Here's the actual signal.
Yeah, I was like, wow, and it was incredible. It was incredible to actually get that experience and find out that holy shit, there's a difference. Same amount of money, but there's a difference, and it was a huge difference. It was so easy to pick out. And then I like stuck around and like saw other people do it and saw how many people could pick it out. And I'm sitting there going, I can pick it out. I know which one that is. I know which one that is. I know which one that is. Like
Love it, love it, love
you
it.
could hear it.
I
And was
just
like,
got
wow.
such a good idea.
Wow.
I want to do a blind sound test. Every once in a while, I want we listen to something, no details, a specific track or specific instrument, specific mic, and listen and say what we think it is, whether it's coming from this, that, or the other thing.
Ooh.
I want to challenge my ears in that way because I'm blown away what my ears are hearing these days. I've exercised them so hard that all of a sudden I'm hearing shit that I don't even like what am I picking up here?
But
I
you know
want to
what's
test my
amazing?
ears with mics like that.
What's one thing that's amazed me though is do you know over this last 2 years that I've been hitting music really, really hard, and I've been wearing headphones really, really hard and mixing a lot for 2 years, right? Like a lot over the last 2 years. It has amazed me at how much my volume level has gone down.
Oh yeah.
Like
I'm a completely
weird.
bottom up level approach these days. Like I bring up the volume till I get it where I want to hear it. I hope. I hate having to turn down volume.
Like I barely bring my headphone volume up past half ever. Like ever. It's weird because I remember prior to this, I used to listen to like stuff full blast all the time because I was rocking out and having a blast and really loving it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's some full sound. And yeah, what's up? Yelling at somebody while my mics are, while my headphones are on. And now
And that's actually what happens when you mix the conferencing. That's the trick. My music equipment, my conferencing equipment, these headsets, they're all tied to levels that are good here for this situation,
Yes.
better here in that situation. And switching between them, if you don't have an easy way, you either forget to do it or you
We just kept this,
you realize like you're yelling at like 3 in the morning
I just
because
realized
it's
we just
glimmering
kept
in
this
your
stuff
fucking
going for like
head.
we kept this thing going for like another 40 minutes. I really gotta get off of here. We've been going absolutely another 40 minutes,
Work in
and
the morning.
we've got another 105. We got 105 people watching right now. I hope you all are enjoying our random nonsense that just happened.
Oh, this is Midnight Madness.
This is the madness, man. I really enjoyed
I
it.
love Midnight Madness.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm gonna jump off. Y'all run this down. I'll watch the rest of it.
All right.
Later.
Awesome to have you, Jake.
Thanks for stopping in.